Thank you, listeners, for tuning into Soundscapes. I'm sitting here with Jacob inside this the bus in front of a pet shop next to a furniture store in the middle of a parking lot close to curfew hours in Heidelberg. Jacob, I've gotten to know over the last year. He's definitely a cool dude. I definitely admire his passion for the scene and the amount of work he puts into his own music. I'm a big fan of your music. So thank you for coming on.
Wow, really kind words. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk a little bit about music and whatever else we get to.
Yeah. We're also enjoying some nice beer.
Indeed.
Close to that.
Prost.
You're essentially the only other American musician that I know in this
Heidelberg.
area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's not really, and I don't know if there's another DJ out there that's in this area that's from America.
I don't think so. Not in the house and techno thing, I don't think, but please, I hope someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. I'd love to meet him, for sure.
Yeah. And your whole origin story, I'm a little bit familiar, but to your origin story, but for the listeners who don't really know you, how'd you end up in Heidelberg?
Yeah, so I came to Heidelberg through soccer, actually. I played soccer in university. I wasn't picked in the draft or any professional teams. I wanted to keep playing. I wanted to travel. And so I got in touch with some agencies, an agent, quasi-agent, not like the big bucks agent, but we did a trial over here in Germany, and I found a spot on a lower league team here and moved over here. And since then I've retired from soccer, but moved around a couple times, and now I'm in Heidelberg. So it wasn't through music, but it was through soccer actually, but I'm really happy where I ended up. Heidelberg's a really nice city to live and to work on music and meet people, and so that's the short version of the story. At least there's a lot more not so interesting details within there, or maybe interesting, I don't know.
Well, I find it interesting that it's almost the way I see you is you're essentially like you've already done a career. And how old are you actually?
26.
Okay.
Yeah. 26
and already had a professional soccer career in Europe.
Yeah, it was. It's very different, and now, I'm trying to navigate life after that, and it is interesting, life without soccer, life after. I still love it, obviously, and right now in Corona time, I'm kind of happy that I've actually moved on from it at the moment. But yeah, it really consumed most of my life, if not all of my life, for basically until a year and a half ago, or a year ago, I guess. The level in Germany is really good, and I was really excited when I got here, and even going down in the leagues into the smallest villages, the level is really incredible compared to in the States, and it was definitely something that I put all of my heart and soul and body and everything else into, and I didn't have as much time to, focus on certain parts of myself that I have time for now. So that could be music, or that can just be cooking during the week, or relationships, or going for hikes on the weekend, or something like that. I'm really happy that I also have that time now to invest in music and DJing and production, things like that, because before it just wasn't really doable to play a gig on Friday night till 6 or 7 a.m. and then have a game the next day. Those two worlds don't mix, and so I had to make choices, years ago through college, and also when I was here, about which shows I could see, and which clubs and which parties I could go to, and also which gigs I could take. And it's pretty limiting because soccer was a priority. And at some point you kind of, the writing's on the wall that when, there's not, you can't go so much further. I wanted to invest more time in music at some point, and so I'm happy that it's, I'm really happy with it, like the soccer career and like that career or the soccer journey. I don't know, however you want to phrase it, but I'm happy with what I was able to do, and it also was now, I kind of used it at some point as a tool, as a vehicle to live my life how I wanted to and to take me somewhere where I wanted to go. And yeah, so I had to make a decision at some point, and I'm happy that I was able to do that, because the music community in Germany and the people you meet, and also just the events and how things are run here, it's a completely different world than what I'm used to. Coming from the Midwest, the northern Midwest, it's just nothing like that exists there. We have our bars close at 1:30 or 2, and so
there's no after parties.
No, that stuff gets cut off pretty quick by the police or angry neighbors, or you can't. It's a lot more difficult to obtain licenses for events, whether if that's under the cultural branch or however you want to describe it. That stuff just doesn't really exist where I'm from, and so to have access to that all the time now, at some point it was a pretty easy decision for me to kind of leave that career behind and be proud of it and still love soccer and still use those things that I learned from that and apply those to the rest of my life or in music or whatever it might be. But it was it became more of a tool for me at some point, and I'm thrilled how it turned out.
Do you see it something as it being something like destiny, that you took this whole thing and are now the whole soccer thing, and then ended up in Europe and ended up finding actually the scene?
Destiny, no. I mean, that's not really the way I see the world, but I mean, people make choices, and those choices definitely have consequences, and I've been super fortunate, like throughout my whole life. The family I was born into, and some of the gifts that maybe I was given, and maybe a mindset, and you get lucky bounces and things like that. And if you decide to take certain opportunities or those lucky bounces and how you use those, I mean, it's hard to think it's not destiny maybe, but there's part of me that is proud of myself, but part of it is also just total luck and random. It's just total chance.
All a damn coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, also I spent a lot of time in Saarbrücken. Valeria was studying there when I met her, and we met the DJ community there, and the people from CeeLo and Hunter Thompson, and I mean, I never would have went to Saarbrücken. Even when I first got here, that was never on my radar, because I was originally closer to Pirmasens in Landau, in the Pfalz, and for me, always the major cities were probably going to be Mannheim, Frankfurt, and I mean, Heidelberg was also on the radar, but Saarbrücken was never a city that I was ever thinking about for music or otherwise. And I ended up there, and that was kind of like a second home, I feel really at home there with the people, and it was totally random. So maybe we could say it's destiny, because it's kind of sexy to think about it that way. But no, I don't know. Destiny is not really something that I entertain in my life, but it is random. But it also, I think there's decisions that are made, and you can dictate certain things in your life, and but again, I was pretty fortunate to be put in certain positions and able to make those decisions, to go left or right, and sometimes you go left and it's wrong, and that's okay, and sometimes you go left and it's right, and I don't know. Doesn't
perspective play a little bit of
definitely
a role in that as well? Because some people will take a right and then they think they did the wrong decision, but because they're thinking that, they are not seeing all the other possibilities that they just opened up.
Yeah, man. I mean, there would be a lot of people who would be living my life right now and totally not be happy, but I'm like super, I'm super content. I'm super thrilled with where I'm at and what I'm doing, and the people that surround me, and the music projects, even someone who's very similar to me, with music output. If certain things that I would be doing, they might not be happy if that's what their output was. So it is totally a perspective thing, you know. It's I mean, that's probably the most important, you know, but you can also change your perspective and change your how you view those things, and you can, you know, you can manipulate that, and you can kind of placebo yourself into feeling a certain way, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's something you kind of learn in sports as well. You know, you don't want to show up every single game day, and you're not up for every single game necessarily, or gigs. You don't have that super excited, just like crazy book every single time, and you kind of have to like make it artificially sometimes.
You gotta show up.
You gotta show up and you gotta play, or you gotta go to work, or you gotta go to school, and you just gotta do it. And so you can kind of manipulate your mind that way, you know, and that's totally a perspective thing. But I mean, your mind is the most powerful thing that you own, in so many ways. Yeah. So yeah, I think perspective, I mean, but that goes to every walk of life, really. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
Like somewhat. There's a lot in that, and I see that also in the right now, especially with what's going on in the world. A lot of people have the wrong perspective going into it. They also have, some people have the right perspective, seeing it as like an opportunity, in the end, it's really the individual who gets to decide, and I think you're pretty aware of that, and you're aware of your decisions that you made, and seem pretty happy with it.
Yeah, but you know, in this Corona time, like I've written a lot of music, and from the beginning, that was kind of my goal. As I was going to, I was like, there's so many little technicality things with production and compressors and EQs and the mix down stuff I've never been super good at, and the sound quality and the sound design stuff. I was like, okay, well now I have time. There's no gigs. There's none of this stuff going on. I need to like invest time in it, and I need to kind of put this hard work in. Now, I'm super fortunate that I was in a position that I was able to have that time, and like I was able to refocus and still try and get something out of this time. Doesn't mean it was easy, but I mean, there's people going through a lot. Again, perspective. You know, there's people that are really struggling in this time, and I'm also struggling in this time. I think everyone's struggling in this time, but. Yeah, this time it's really strange. I tried to go into it and be like, okay, well, when we come out of it, let's have something something I can grab onto, something tactile, whether that's music or. We started making pasta at home and tortillas. Like, you know, we're starting to make our own pasta, and like that's a skill that's gonna follow me forever. And like it's not hard, but you just kind of have to do it one day. And again, not everyone's in a situation, you know, mentally or financially or whatever it might be, that they can do that, you know. So, you know, luck plays a big role in it, but yeah, it's a weird time, man. It's really weird, and it's not great for anyone right now. I don't, you know, you don't see people at work or on the street and be like, yeah, I'm doing really great right now. It's the best time. I'm having the best time of my life. No.
Going back to placebo, when people ask me how you doing, I just straight up lie and just say I'm doing wonderful. Never been better. I don't straight up lie, but it's like I try to keep the perspective on it, because it's like, all right, cool. What's really going on in the world? There's not really parties. There's not much culture going on, and that's sort of like where my main focus is. It allowed me, or like in your case, to start focusing more on music production type of activities.
Yeah. Instead
of it was a crazy weird build up before the whole world sort of shut down. It felt like the world was getting faster and faster. And it was getting a little bit chaotic. It was like, at least in my world, it was essentially the build up to Corona, there was like a party Friday, Saturday, and then like a get together on a Sunday, or like three evenings in the week where you're just going out, and it's like
maybe it started on Wednesday actually.
there was definitely things like there was friends who were playing at like Ginsburg here in Heidelberg on like a Wednesday, and you're just like, yeah, let me just go drop in, and then all of a sudden you're dropping 30 euros on gin tonics because they have delicious gin tonics. But then Corona hit, and it sort of like gave a lot of us the chance to sort of reevaluate what we want out of parties. But I think now it's been a little bit overplayed. It's almost a year.
Yeah, it's getting a bit long. You know, I was pretty optimistic at the beginning. I was like, okay, when we come out of this, let's have something, let's do something, blah, blah, blah. You know, and now it's like, well, okay, how long am I going to be able to, you're making tracks, and then you're like, well, someone's got to play these things, and they're just playing them, at your house or in a stream or something, and it's not what that stuff is for. This stuff is to go out and meet people, like you said, and go to, have a spontaneous night out and exit at least by 30 euros, at the bar, and like that's okay, but that's also like kind of what humans are made to do. We're social creatures.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is dragging a bit. But I don't know the answers to how we're going to get out of it either.
Do you think it's going to come back to any form of normal?
Yeah, I do. I think people want it so bad, and I don't think that. I think governments and higher up people they don't want like unhappy people, because unhappy people are not, like they do in some ways, but like in this, like with people, running out of money and running out of businesses and things like that, and I think they want people to be able to be distracted again, because right now everyone is just focusing on what these government people, and higher up people are doing all the time, and I think I think that we will go back to normal in some type, but I think there will be a lot of hangover effects, and I don't know how long those are going to go.
Yeah.
Whether that's just, walking on the street when you see someone coming down the sidewalk so you don't have to walk past them, or, our friends, the masks, which nobody likes, obviously, but, it's one of those things. It's kind of important that we, just try and do our small part so we can get out of this thing. I don't know what it's gonna look like afterward. I'm really curious. I hope people remember how to be social in a positive way. I'm not super excited about the first couple weeks at clubs and bars after this thing, because I think it's gonna be a little bit over the top. I think people are gonna be a little bit irresponsible, perhaps not in the fun way either. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you have a very positive perspective on it. I have been looking into a lot of different things regarding who are like these people making decisions, why are they making these decisions, and I'm also looking. I'm a person who observes the economy. Economics is like something very important to me, and I see that as the foundation of society, and not in the sense of like, hey, let's try to build an empire. Rather, everybody partakes, and it's just a giving of energy. You give your energy to get other energy, so you can use that energy that you probably weren't specialized in to get things that you necessarily don't have the skills for. And when I started looking at that, like, I don't know, this is a lot of conspiracy theorists out there, say nicely, are looking at the World Economic Forum, and they have a program called the Global Reset.
Okay.
And a lot of the right radicals are saying, hey, this is the new world order, and they're really concerned about it. And I think they're definitely overthinking it, thinking we're going to go into some totalitarian government that's trying to take away all our property and make us just slaves. I don't believe in that.
It wouldn't benefit the people at the top at some point.
Exactly. But I do believe within that framework, because they did release they have rebranded themselves even into this global reset. And then I thought of, at first it was like a conspiracy theory, and then I started looking into it. It's like, no, this is very open in our face. A lot of politicians are using the same slogan, build back better. Okay. And it sort of falls into this framework. And where I want to go with this is, I think we're going to have a restructure of our economy, and I think Corona was just the perfect time to finally make a jump. And I think what they really want to push for is more digitalization, less human-to-human contact. And it sort of feels that way too, because it's like they're really a lot of the rules are taking us away from interacting with other humans now. There is a virus, of course, and the way the virus spreads is through human contact. But I don't know how much. I'm a total moron, but like I don't know shit. But it seems weird that like these masks are supposed to actually really do a big difference in this. And I think what we're losing is seeing other people's full faces, and it's really hard to sort of read people.
I mean, I think that's going to pass, though. People are not going to wear that forever, man. People are not going to wear that forever. I really don't think so. And I don't think they want us to either. I think there are, like, it's terrible. Like, obviously, you can't recognize people you know.
Oh, dude, that's
on the tram terrible. Or something. Like, someone waves at me, I'm like, what do you want? But I think also within the restructuring of things and kind of the reset, like within music at least, it could really be a really big benefit, because okay, hear me out here.
I got comments, but yeah, let me hear.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, so like for DJs who, well, let's just talk. We're DJs, so we're gonna talk about that. In DJ culture, like, there's not gonna be money to throw at, slightly above average or below average DJs who want 5-10K a night.
Yeah,
and people are still gonna go out. People want to go out. They want to go out so bad. And bars are going to open, and clubs are going to open, and festivals are going to happen. And there's not going to be as much money for that stuff.
And it's time for the bedroom DJs.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's on time now. I'm ready. That's why I've been making all these tracks. I'm like, ready. Right when this thing is over, let's have something to give. So, like, right when this thing's over, those people who aren't really about it and who aren't, they're in it for the money and they dig it. But then once the money's gone, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. It's a job to some people, and I get that. But, it's not like that for me. I don't know necessarily that I want it to, be a job in that sense, where it's like just money kind of focused. Then those people will have opportunities that they wouldn't have previously had. And that's going to come from big clubs and small clubs and other venues that have to open, and DIY stuff is going to come back and in a different way. And I think that could open doors for people who are super talented, who just don't have a platform in the same way, or can't break in because, if we started a club and, it was super successful and our thing was that we wanted to play on Saturdays and stuff like that, then, at some point, if you build this big thing and some kid comes up to you, he's like, I would also like to play, and be like, yeah, okay, well, go do your own thing. Yeah. And we made this, like, why, there's 7,000 DJs in the city, it's like, how do you decide who gets to play where? That's a whole different conversation, and that's difficult enough. But, I think there will be, hopefully, room for people who haven't had that opportunity before. And even mid-level people who are going to get more recognition, mid-level, and then like going up and up and up. And it's not about going up and up and up, but if people can get gigs and if people can get exposure and share what they're doing, like that's what this whole thing is supposed to be about, So there is that, but we have to get out of it first.
Yeah.
We have to get out of it first, and we have to not have a bunch of people die. Yeah.
I don't think many of the young people will die.
No, but that's hard enough to, that's a moral thing that we have to fight with, because you can be like, yeah, I'm going to go out and I don't really care because I can get sick and yeah, I may be messed up for a month or two, but whatever.
Yeah.
But how every time you make those decisions, there's a lot of things that can happen. Every time I go to work right now, I know that I'm going into a situation in which it's, kind of dangerous because there's a lot of contact where I work, and I'm honest with the people I work with and their families and things. I'm very straightforward. I'm like, I'm trying to take precautions to be careful about this thing. I can only ask you to please try and be a little bit safe, because at the end of the day, I don't have family here, but you guys, most of you people have family here, and this is going to hurt you. And I'm just trying to be nice about it.
No, but what do you work at?
I work in an international kindergarten. I'm a kindergarten teacher here in Germany. It's here.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really a cool, the German kindergarten experience, and is very different than what it is in the States.
Oh, dude, they go out hiking.
We have once a week. It's mandatory. We have Forest Friday, man. We go up to the forest. We go walking with a bunch of 3 and 4 year olds, walking through the forest and learn about plants, and learning also how to walk in a line and not run into the forest. Yeah, it's a very hands-on. I mean, they're city kids, where it's a small city here, but we're in the city, and when it's not Corona, we can take the tram with them to the Altstadt, and then we walk around the Altstadt and we go, buy strawberries from some guy, and we look at strawberries, and it's a very immersive experience. It's really, really cool. I really enjoy it, actually. It's really nice.
No, it's definitely different than in the States, because in the States, kids just essentially stay in their little fenced-in playground area, and they don't let them outside because of liability issues. And if a kid falls off a swing and breaks his arm, that means no swings for everybody else. That happened to a city I spent 4 years in growing up, El Paso, Texas. I asked, why were all the swings gone, and all the city parks. I was a big fan of playgrounds, still to this day. If I see a dope playground, I have no issue playing on it at this age. Don't do it when there's children there, but if I'm...
A good disclaimer.
Yeah. No, because then it's just sort of like, who's this dude?
Fair enough.
Here. No, but it's the best thing to come across when you're coming back from a club and you're drunk and you see a playground and you're like, I'm going there for 15, 20 minutes, gonna enjoy whatever toys they got. I still do it to this day, but the swings were gone one day, and I recognized it after visiting a few parks. I was like, where are the swings? And it ended up being that the city got sued because somebody hurt themselves on the swings, so they just decided to remove all swings in the city.
Yeah, I mean, kids get hurt, man. I don't know. I'm because I have a athletic background, I like to be pretty active with the kids at the park. We're running around playing monster game and running around with a ball and chasing kids, and they fall, and I'm pretty open with parents and stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, if kids get hurt, at some point it's like, that's okay. They need a little scrape, and
they're also so durable.
They are. They bounce back. You just gotta laugh, and they'll bounce back. They'll just jump up, and they'll be all right. Maybe. Well, when they're really hurt, they'll let you know. Yeah. But no, it's But for those people in the States that are listening, kindergarten is more of like a preschool type of thing. It goes until 6 in Germany. So it's not true. Really, kindergarten is different. It's like 0.5 grade, or it's right before first grade in the States. So it's a little different. It's still very in school. Yeah. And this is more of it's like a educational, it's not daycare. It's like kind of a bad word, but
why is it a bad word?
No, I mean, it's not like it that we do have also nursery stuff, so there are little babies, but we're also doing a lot more educational things. We try and kind of make their day both entertaining, but also so that they go home and they have something.
Yeah,
they can bring something with them.
Did you give them your mixtapes?
No, but I did bring my music production stuff in, and we jammed around on Ableton one day. We made a song, and they were they were like interested for 10 minutes, and then they were like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But yeah, they liked it. I'm thinking about maybe doing it again with a microphone. I think they might do it
vocal samples
with their voices. I think they might like it a bit more. But yeah, it's it's good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dude, get a vocal pack together.
It would be could be some interesting stuff. I mean, it's bilingual, so we're teaching them English. Yeah. So there's kids who don't speak German or English, or there's kids who, speak 3 or 4 languages, or only English, and then they're just sponges, dude. It's really crazy. It's really crazy seeing it. And we had a kid who didn't speak German or English, and now he's just like, he just speaks English all day long, just blah, 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 all day long. And it was like 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden one day he walks in and he's just like, and he's just going off, and you're like, wow, dude, it's really, really incredible. Humans are really cool sometimes. Yeah. We do all right sometimes.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. It gets definitely more difficult as you get older, and you're an adult. Like, holy shit, there's things you just can't do, or it feels like you can't do.
I think we have the same capacity. We just don't have the same time. Like, I think the time is a really big factor in it, and like our perception of it. Yeah, because when I came here, like my German's not perfect by any means. Make a lot of mistakes, but I also haven't really taken courses. But I was like in a place where like English wasn't really accessible. There were guys who spoke English, but I started coaching a 12-year-old soccer, like a boys team. And none of them spoke English, and the other assistants didn't really speak English, and so I just had to do it. And I'm not old, but I'm also not 4. And I figured it out. Like, I think we sometimes underestimate our ability to learn new things as we get older. I think if you have time, or if you like forget about what time means to you as an adult, you can still learn things. Yeah. Maybe not at the same speed, but definitely, like, we still have that capability. Yeah. Or maybe not. I don't know. maybe I'm just like way optimistic about that, and I got super lucky. But or maybe my German's way worse than it actually.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
But your German's really good.
It's because I threw myself in, and also like I have the fortunate situation where like my grandparents were German, so they always spoke it around the house. So at least like understanding it, it came very, very easily to me, and like pronunciation, because it was like sort of molded the pronunciation at a very young age.
That's tough for Americans too.
Yeah, dude, it's like still tough for me, but it's like I have at least like the head start on it. But when I came here, my grandparents, nobody ever told me that I was actually speaking German completely incorrect while growing up. So I was like,
you're speaking dialect or what?
No, I was just I made up my own form of German that they understood using English grammar. I was like translating words one for one, and then I end up I come to Germany, and then I'm thinking like I'm tough shit, like I know the language, and then people are waiting for me to finish a sentence because you usually end a sentence in verbs. Had no clue about that, and then.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, dude, it was,
Make we party today?
Yeah, and, so, ended up, just, immersing myself into it, and the best thing I ever did was, get a job in, PR.
Oh wow! Okay.
In German, so and without really taking any German course, I was like, "This is it. They like me. I have concepts. I'm not your best guy for actually writing the material, but
I can't write. Dude, my writing is terrible. Autocorrect is a big time help for texting.
Do you use translators?
I mean, for when? I mean, yeah, definitely, of course.
Which translator?
Usually it's only for words because sentences are very difficult to do.
On translators.
Yeah,
Or-
I mean, like bigger sentences or like more complex ideas, it never comes out right.
There is actually one translator that has it pretty good figured out, and I essentially use that anytime I'm like trying to write the amts, the professionals, the
yes.
bureaucracy. It's Deep L, and
Deep L, okay.
and it's like AI, and they know the sentence structure. And like if you and like you probably have the advantage, you do know German, so you can also just click on the word where you know this doesn't feel right, and you just click on the word, then it offers other words that you can use. You click on that, and then it changes up that sentence to fit that word better. So that was a big game changer. Saved my ass so much in PR, because it's like company did it like. If I'm like emailing, I was never responsible for producing any content that went out into the world in German.
For the best, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely for the best. But I would be in contact with other people, and it would be pretty bad if I had not had this translator, and I'm like in contact with these people. They would be thinking, "Oh, what the fuck? What's going on with their PR team?"
Yeah, I definitely get that. I'm pretty tentative about writing an Instagram or something like that in German, because I don't know, or like text or something like that. Writing is totally, I can talk with someone all day and listen, but writing big text is definitely something I need to work on, actually. That should have been my Corona goal, but it wasn't.
Your Corona goal was making music.
Yeah, I was just making boom boom music in my room, but...
Now, you've been busy at work on your music.
Yeah.
How deep is your archive now?
Over 100 tracks.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, but that's 4 years maybe. It's pretty good. I recognized it the other day on Rekordbox. Actually, I was kind of going through stuff. So I was like, wow, I kind of have a lot. Kind of have a lot more than I thought. But not that much I actually like. No, just kidding. No, but since Corona, I think I've written at least 30 tracks. I did a little kind of like mixtape ghetto EP thing where I sent out some CDs.
I caught wind of that.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like all the stuff that I kind of have compiled over the last year. And I was that was in the last year it's the time frame with the productions that I've done, also, not just the sound quality but also the ideas and the structure within them. And also the complexity of the songs. And my songs are not like super complex. I'm not like Romanflügel or something like that. But, I'm not just like pasting loops on each other anymore. Like there's actually things going on where it's like, this is my song now. So 30, 40 tracks in the last year, and I'm pretty happy with that. And there's probably 10 to 20 of them that I'm like, I'll play those like regularly. Mastering is a different story. I'm not. I took a swing at that over Corona as well. I was like, well, but it showed me also where my mistakes are in my mixdown. Yeah. And also how if I'm sampling something or how I need to EQ things. There was a lot of things like once I started to try and master them, I was like, it's super muddy here. There's not enough kick. There's not enough punch. There's too much high. There's not enough high. On the hi-hats or the snare or whatever. I mean, that damn snare, dude. The snare or the clap never quite comes out the way you want it to. Well, for me at least. But
that's a thing.
The running meme, damn snare. So it's a process, but I don't really, that's not my thing. I don't really consider myself to be a good producer or like a producer or like a writer of music, like a musician. Probably not at all. Like I'm DJing is my first thing that I think, like, I'm pretty confident now. Like I think I can go into, most rooms in the world, wherever it would be at any time of day, and like find the right vibe and like make people happy, but also say what I want to say and kind of, give a bit of information or tell a little story about who I am and a little personality. I just played a set with you and it was a little all over the place, and that's kind of how I am, but it kind of always has some pretty common themes from my music background and also just things I like. in college, I played a lot of stuff that I didn't like because, you know, I was a college athlete and...
You were playing EDM.
Yeah, okay, well, hold on. Hold on. Okay.
Do you have any mixes from then?
No. I never published any of that top 40 stuff because the top 40 stuff I was playing at house parties that we would host, and, you know, it would have been super inappropriate for me to play, like, house and techno for a bunch of people who only want to hear Fetty Wap at the time. You know, it was like we were
Fetty Wap wasn't too bad.
I mean, some songs, man. You know, he's pretty catchy. I did always get to pick the stuff within that stuff that I liked, or try and find like fun trap remixes or electro house or something. But it would have been inappropriate for me to play certain things, but I could get away with a little Michael Jackson or Daft Punk once in a while. Those were like house parties, or I was the arena DJ for hockey and basketball at our university. So that was a lot. Basketball was a lot of hip hop. The hockey guys really liked like more EDM-y, like Martin Garrix kind of stuff. But you know, I never put my like DJ. I never put my name on that stuff. That was just like, you know, I was getting paid to do it and paying.
Just gigging, practice.
Yeah, a little bit. It was honestly really good practice for reading a room, because also those people, they're not there for the music. It's also just a college house party. So people are also not focused on you, but you have so much control, but they're also so fickle, and they're so picky, and they have no attention span. Yeah. Sorry to those people out there. Also, I'm not sorry though.
How many song requests would you get on average?
A lot, but generally, people would request, you know, whatever. Taylor Swift would be like, "Hey, do you have Rihanna?" And be like, "Who?" They're like, "Rihanna." I'm like, "I don't know who that is." And what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't know. And just put my headphones back on. I mean, it was like a little bit tongue-in-cheek stuff, but and then I'd play like Rihanna like 3 songs later or something and kind of smile. No, but because at the same time I was still doing house and techno stuff, where I was actually, but you know, the people that I was around at that time, none of those people really saw me in that environment. So, but for reading a room and for making quick decisions and like being able to pull something out when you're like, okay, dude, people are really not digging this right now, or like whatever it might have been, that was really, really good practice actually. Yeah, also like mixing my setup was pretty ridiculous. I was on a this is so great. I had like an ironing board, and I was like on an ironing board. I had a controller with a laptop at one point, but I also had like one CDJ that was like really bad. It was like, it would only jump by like 0.1 on BPM.
Yeah.
And then I would have and then I would have another mixer, and then sometimes I'd have like a phone. So people would like put in requests, so I'd be like mixing with like a phone and a CDJ. So it was really, I mean, the mixes obviously weren't long, blending or anything like that, but it was fun. I'm, you know, through that time, I'm really flexible. Yeah. And I still have some of that music, not all of it. I deleted a lot of it because it's just like silliness, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the flexibility and the ability to be able to play on someone's balcony at 4 PM. You can't play techno there. It doesn't make sense, you know?
Very true.
So, you know, and there's a lot more music than just club music. Club music is pretty abstract and kind of, if you don't, you know, I don't, also like younger kids, and it doesn't make sense for them necessarily to listen to house and techno because that music comes from other music, and unless you understand disco and funk and rock and roll and jazz and industrial things. I mean, Germany's history with electronic music is very different than the States, but for me,
there's a heavy cross-pollination though.
Oh yeah, big time. But like for me, I also come from a jazz and like indie rock background. If you don't understand jazz and you don't understand disco, you know, and if you have like a small knowledge of that, I mean, it's going to be hard to like really get the music in a different way. I mean, for me, and that's just also like my perception. So maybe someone gets it better than I do, and they don't give a crap about Miles Davis. I don't know. They're a silly person, but
there's definitely people out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. But you know, that's just my perception of it, because without that stuff, you know, without Larry Levan, who wasn't playing house music, this stuff doesn't exist. And, we don't have to live in the old days and be the old grumpy DJ with the little the little hat who's just like, oh, vinyl, blah, blah, blah. I love vinyl just as much as the next person, but we can appreciate those things and take from them without like living there.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important.
It's also important to be building on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also sort of like we spoke about mastering earlier. Mastering, sometimes we put so much emphasis on this mastering thing. And when you hear those records that were coming out of Chicago and Detroit back in the day, they're
raw as hell, man.
Yeah,
raw
they were distorted sounds, and that is actually what I believe was one of the big things in it. And somehow through this whole idea of like we need to get it super clean, now somehow like.
I mean, that is kind of a German principle, though. Like Germans are really good at that. Like the German producers that I know also here in Heidelberg, and guys in Saarbrücken, dude, their audio, their like sound design and stuff is way past where I am. I'm much more focused on like which cool old funk sample can I use, and these guys are like, yeah, but blah blah blah, and theirs is like crystal clear.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe not. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, totally feel it. And I just think sometimes we overthink the mastering, but a very true, good point that like a good observation that like generally here in Germany, what I see in sort of the underground compared to like what I see in the States, it's like very, very clean cut.
Yep.
But that's also sort of the German mentality, as they want it genau.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. I mean, techno is the perfect music for Germans. It is German music. Like, there's nothing more German than techno. Like,
what about Schlager?
I mean,
which has actually very trancy vibes sometimes.
Well, the new Schlager is. I mean, the old Schlager is like German disco. It's like, there is some really cool songs. I mean, DJ Cozy like also has some really cool edits of old Schlager songs. And I mean, the new stuff, those people are not involved in the underground scene. Yeah. And there's like basically these top 40 crowds who are totally getting down to these super cheesy cheeseball, big Schlager, whatever trans EDM songs. But they're getting down to it in a way that people in the States would not be doing. It's like in people's blood here. This like four on the floor, just like boom, boom, boom. People love it. It's just, it's
predictable.
Yes and no.
That's sort of what I see coming from this conversation is that Germans they like to know what's coming. And they like to be prepared for it. So a four on the floor is like they know when it's coming.
Yeah, but they're also very nuanced people. It's very nuanced and it's very subtle. So there's like very small changes, and the German club culture is so far ahead of the US. The US is,
we've lost it. We never. I think outside of the 90s and the disco era, we never really had it.
Yeah, I mean, there's places in the States. I mean, obviously the bigger cities, Miami, LA,
Atlanta,
New York, but there's pockets. Like there's really good DJs, but like all the guys from Minneapolis. There was a big scene in Minneapolis, in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff, but like all those guys are all living in Berlin. DVS1, John Hester, like Mike Gervais, like all those guys are in Berlin now.
They went to Mecca, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not really a surprise because the clubbing here is more accessible, and so then, there's more club nights, there's more, the hours are longer. And people like the music, people study the music, people listen to it in their free time. And people want more out of the DJs. So local DJs then they are just naturally inclined to up their game. Yeah. So then the production and the mastering and the mix downs and just the quality of local DJs in Germany as a whole. Yeah. Incredible, dude. Incredible.
Very true.
Seriously.
Very true.
I mean, that's not just like Heidelberg also has like, really incredible DJs and the people in Saarbrücken that I know. I just talk about Saarbrücken because that was the place I spent the most time in. Yeah. But man, the guys there, like, there's some players, man. There are some players there.
And I was in Halle. There were some players there recently. In Halle, like, I generally think just overall, more people are with it in the scene here.
You see better DJs. You have the opportunity to go to nights. You can go to Robert Johnson. We saw Butch play twice there for 8 or 9 hours. You're not the same after that. It messed me up, dude. Like seriously, you're not the same after you hear people who are really good play extended sets, and you're like, that's what it's actually supposed to be like.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be like. It's not boom. Like people in the States think techno music is like Dance Dance Revolution. Like there's not a perception of what techno is.
It's so broad. It's so broad.
It is broad, you know, but there is also like kind of
there's meme techno.
There is meme techno, but there's like there is like a more succinct like vision of what it, you know, is, or what actually like people who make it and people who go out to it, what that sounds like, what that looks like. And people here, it's like normal for someone who doesn't consume techno or isn't in the underground or isn't whatever, that once every month or once every couple months, they go to a warehouse party and they just go and they dig it and they don't care about, you know, it's not a thing. Yeah. It's not a weird thing for them. It's like normal. And I mean, you can't create that. You can't buy that. You can't, that is something, it's so irreplaceable, dude. It's so valuable. It's part of the people. It's part of the culture in Germany, you know, and
I think actually Europe.
Yeah, Europe, but Germany. I mean, I've most of my experience is in Germany, and you know, there's amazing music from around Europe, but the number of good clubs and the number of institutions, as far as clubs, Berghain, Panorama Bar, and you know, Tresor, and then Robert Johnson, and then Sven Väth comes out of Mannheim, and the Hoffman crew and that stuff. Like, that's a lot. Yeah. You know, even just in this area, the number of, you know, really high quality DJs that have come from this area, Gerd Jansen and Mufti. Yeah. And Sinti comes up from Saarbrücken. And it's like, those are like world players, but those are just like some kids from this town, like from this neighborhood, from this place. Yeah. And it's just like kind of normal. I know, it's amazing.
I definitely agree. I think something like if we continue comparing like Germany to the States, I think one thing that also plays a role is geography. In Europe, everything is so much closer to another. Totally. It allows for somebody like Janssen to make a quick weekend trip to Berlin, no problem.
Oh yeah. Or me. I'm not even playing.
Exactly. No, but it can just spread so much more easily. Whereas like you're from the North Midwest. It's I don't know how close is the
Minneapolis is 3.5, 4 hours.
Fuck.
Well, and you have to drive.
Yeah.
And then it's like a hotel or whatever, or you're staying with people. But
you drive back?
Or no, you're not. But bars and clubs close at 2, and there is some like warehouse stuff. The System crew in Minneapolis, it's like I think that's actually Mike Gervais, who's one of the guys that plays in Germany a lot. And DVS1 and those guys, like that stuff is from Minneapolis. But that's also not every single weekend. Yeah. It's not like a sustainable scene like here. Like there's local DJs in Heidelberg who are not like DVS1 who can like pay rent just from DJing. That's crazy. That's crazy. To me, that's crazy. You know, it's 4 hours there and then it's like 4 or 5 more hours to Chicago. Yeah. And if you want to, Smart Bar or something is that far away. Yeah. And then going south, Omaha, that's where I went to school. Where I went to college.
What was the scene like there?
Man, again, you know, it's hard. Like in Fargo, there's great, you know, there's good musicians and good artists everywhere. For the most part, it's just about density. Yeah. You know, and in Omaha, I met some people who taught me a lot. And there's people with amazing experiences like from there. There's also a couple DJs who were on Jesse Perez's label and like that played little, you know, summer in Ibiza and stuff. Like, there's people who have done some stuff there, but like a whole scene, it doesn't exist. Bars close at 2. Yeah. That's it. And it's super conservative state, and the music doesn't make sense, like, in those settings. And, you know, because I would play one of the clubs there, Bar 415, it would open at 9 and it closes at 2. Last call's at like 1:30. But people don't come until like midnight. So, you know, you get to kind of play all the like cooler whatever stuff. Like more, maybe you have more say in what you're playing from 9 to midnight, but you also have to keep people there because you're also being paid based on how well the bar does. Yeah. And people will come, but it's always going to be packed from 1 to 2. And you really only have then like 2 hours or like an hour and a half to actually play to people who maybe want to dance or maybe are just there because it's the last spot they go because they're drunk or whatever. Yeah. So at the time, you know, I'm playing a bunch of tracks that I'm not super, you know, I'm not like in love with them, but I know they're going to work. Big room stuff, like, you know, more on the tech housey side, or like,
some EDM.
No, not EDM, not EDM, but just more on like maybe more towards like Dirty Bird stuff, or I didn't play that. It's like that's too booty for me. I like some of that stuff too. I think that's cool, but I was never super into the booty house stuff. No, but you know, maybe stuff like more Martinez Brothers kind of vibe and stuff like that.
So that existed.
Yeah. I mean, there's people, there's really good DJs there, and but it's just not, you know, there's 10 of us that were there. Yeah. Damn. And they're all, and I was the youngest one. It was like weird that I was 19 or 20 and I was like trying to DJ, but I couldn't really because I wasn't really allowed in the club until I was 21.
Damn.
You know, I was like this really young kid because all these guys are over 40, over 30, some over 50, you know, it's like, their experience is very different because they came from the Midwest rave scene or they came from the West Coast. And the Midwest in the rave days was very different too. But that music is also like not really, that's a very different type of music. The Midwest is like, it's really cold. Like we're up a real winter, man. So it's like our rock is like, the rock and roll is like really hard, and the techno is really hard. And like,
really?
Yeah, also like dubstep and bass music is really prevalent in the Midwest. Like very wobbly wob, like big. Yeah, it's not my thing, but people love it there. And like, yeah, sexy time house music is not on people's radar from those places. So yeah, again, there's good DJs, you know, and people in every city, you know, around, but it's just about, you know, density and the opportunity to play events that allow you to play music that, you know, is gonna maybe mean something, or maybe be, you know, it's gonna mean something coming from you, and I don't know, maybe try and push this thing one little step further, because there's been a lot of DJ sets in the world, and there's been a lot of club nights over the history, and it's hard. It's really easy to just do the same thing every Friday night, you know, but you need space and you need time and you need a patient audience who cares about the music in order to, you know, to try and say something that's original, or like, you know, that you have your own touch to it, because no one else can do it. I can't play a set that you play. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't. I could try as hard as I could, but I could never do it.
Well, that's my style.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But, you know, we don't have the same tracks in our folder. Yeah. We're not playing the same, you know, top 100 stuff. Yeah. You know, and there's obviously a huge gap between top 40 and like house and techno stuff, but, you know, whether I like your music or you like my music, it doesn't really matter, because I can't say what you're going to say. Yeah. When you get behind the decks, I can't do it, no matter what.
All right. Very well said.
You know, and that's like super, that is lost when you only have an hour and a half. If you have an hour and a half and everyone is like not really there for you, you know, for that music or that experience, people aren't there to close their eyes. No. You know, they're there for something else. I don't know. But
no, you can throw in a little. You can always throw in like some booty shaking music in that hour and a half.
I do. I like a good booty shaker. Yeah. That's not the problem. But I mean, it's just like it has to be constant, because they also want the bar to be full. You know, like that was just my experience in that place. But I've had that experience in other cities in the Midwest, because I mean, also, you know, bar and club owners aren't interested in this druggy music either. Because you also get an interesting crowd that shows up there. And the interesting crowd in the States or in the Midwest is...
all they buy is water.
It's the interesting people, you know, the interesting people that show up to those things in the States are very different than the alternative people here in Germany. Yeah. You know, the crowds here, like the crowds at the events here are so respectful and so forward thinking, and of course there are those people again in the States, but it is different from density and also just the way people conduct themselves. It's totally different. It's so different, and that has a huge effect on the music. Without those places, in Saarbücken, we can play at Hunter Thompson from 10 until 6, 7, 8 in the morning all night. You can say so much, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're dead after that.
Yeah.
You're dead. Not just because it's long, because you just put like you put a lot of emotion if you do it right.
Yeah.
You put a lot of tracks out there. You're like, dude, this represents me. This is what I think this music is about. This is my interpretation of this. I think you will also like this. This is fun. Have a dance. That's really cool. But that space doesn't happen. So then those ideas can't be shared, and you can't build up a maturity of an audience without that stuff. In my experience, but I think I'm right. So
No, I definitely agree a lot with it. It's also the reason why I'm in Europe. I went to the States to try to like figure it out, and when I had to there came a point in my crossroads where I had to like make a decision of, do I go back to the States or do I stay in Europe? And I was just like a year into DJing in Amsterdam, where there also is great talent. You can you can go to a club and for 6 hours see one guy perform and put it all out and play with the emotions of the crowd, and that's what I sort of fell in love with. And then when I had to make the decision of like, where am I going, I had 2 months to go visit back home, and I just decided to take those 2 months to really like culturally look at like, is this the place for me? And that was a lot of like what I recognized was people would actually want to go to these parties not for the music. There is very little of that. They
have to have another reason to go. It has to be like an event or like a picture or something.
And that was what like really like was cringy to me. Like there was like this like close to my hometown, a small alley where an alley that was behind a bar, and the bar let them organize a party in this alley, and there was legit 3 people. Like 3 people. What I mean, legit 3 people. There's legit 3 people who were there for the music. I, my friend, and some other. He was a house dancer, and like you could clearly see he was a house dancer, and he just loved the house music. Yeah. So,
I've played to 3 people many times back home, dude. It's not great, but you do learn a lot.
But like the thing is, it was like 3 people, but there was like 30, 40 people around, but they weren't there like in it, and that's why I say 3. It was more or less like, just want to come to this cool party that's in this alley.
How was the sound though? Was it a big sound system?
It was a moderate. It was a PA that was of course on 2 sticks and subwoofer, 2 subwoofers.
Exactly, that's the thing though too, because if you don't hear this stuff like really in your face and like really hitting you, like Robert Johnson for me that's the end. Like that is the place to hear electronic music in the world. Like that place, you hear it differently because the sound system is so good, and you can play things that are much more simple, and you have a different appreciation for the music after you leave that place. If you hear house and techno on a phone or on a crappy sound system, of course no one's gonna get it.
That's true. Very true.
That's a huge problem too, and noise ordinance, blah 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 blah, all that stuff in the States. But yeah, man, that stuff is not fun. Yeah. 40 people and 3 people are like, this is cool, and everyone else is like,
But yeah,
it's just like, well, what are we doing here?
It looked like the 37 other people just all wanted to get fucked or fuck with, and they were just trying to flirt, and it looked like a train wreck of a evening of people just trying to fill their ego or something, get their ego fix for the evening, and and then after that experience I was like, okay. And then I tried organizing a party and realized people aren't about like the DIY type parties. No. Dude, I thought it was pretty like the setup was pretty alright, but then it ended up just not being. It wasn't there. There wasn't this open-mindedness towards it. It was like, and it's very like status quo oriented. Yeah. That's why if I ever was a DJ in the States, I would definitely be playing trap, and I low-key think I could be a pretty sick trap DJ.
I high-key agree with you. There's some good tracks in there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of the stuff in the States is like, you know, people go to those events and they're like, well, what does this thing have? What are you offering me? Because there's so many offers where it's like, best party in town, best deal, blah, blah, blah. It's like this big advertising thing. And that's not just with this. This is with many other walks of life, whether it's cars or school or college or anything like that. It's just like this. It is very much like, this is the best thing ever. And so when someone goes to something and they walk in and it is a little sound system and some DJs and a couple people dancing, they're like, they're like, what are you giving me? You know, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, it's about, you know, going and hearing something cool, or what I think is cool at least, and worth something, and making a meaningful connection with music and people and talking and dancing or not dancing, or, you know, closing your eyes or not closing your eyes. You know, there isn't rules. And that is so hard. The DIY stuff, it was really, and also, I mean, local governments make it really hard for that stuff to happen.
That's true.
In a way that it's actually like good, where the sound system's super loud and the hours are extended, and, you know, selling alcohol licenses and things like that. If you're not selling alcohol at parties in the States or at a venue, you know, you're gonna get shut down.
Yeah.
And that stuff is just a lot more accessible here. And the accessibility, you know, and the more people have those nights and the more people hear good music, of course the level is going to go up. Same reason the level of soccer is so good in Germany, because they grow up playing against really good players in a really good system from the time that they're 5.
Yeah.
And of course they're going to be better. It's just, you know, you're a creature of your environment, and it's true in every different genre of your choosing, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, man. Enough about the States, man.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, it's super interesting because, I mean, the music is from there, and it like this, you know. But it's
Dude,
like,
it died so quick though.
yeah, but it's not like there's not people making good stuff there, you know.
True.
And it's not like there isn't important music and important DJs that are still there and still doing things. But I mean, those people, most of them move to Germany, Berlin, or Europe, somewhere else.
With good reason, because it's like, if you're good over there and you make it over here, you can actually make a living off of it, and not doing, because it's in the States it would be something where you're definitely working another job, and this is just like a hobby.
And you have to fly so freaking far, man.
True.
Everywhere.
True.
You have to fly so far. You could play a gig here and not take the train more than 4 hours. You can play a gig every week for a year.
Oh yeah, through Europe.
You know.
Yeah.
Just in our area, there's enough cities and you know, also countries. Like France is not far. Yeah. Paris is not far. Like, that's not unthinkable. You know, that the access to that, you know, that many people in that small of an area. I mean, that's why the culture and the lifestyle in Europe is so. I mean, it's so much further, and like a social level, the way people think about life and job, and also music and like sex and everything else. Like, people in Europe have a very different perception of those things. When they hear I know when they hear certain stories of like mindsets, especially from the Midwest and like Bible Belt places, they're like, what? Yeah. They're like, how are people like that? I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm from, man. I guess, you know, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess it shaped me a little bit, but maybe I just resent it a lot more. And so I love it. I love the underground stuff here more because of that. Yeah. Doesn't mean it. I don't know. Definitely didn't help. But me as a person, but maybe it did in a weird, convoluted way, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you made it. Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
So far.
And speaking of European underground, right now it sort of feels like it's been a little bit commercialized, or at least that there's been like cities that have accumulated a lot of the talent, and I'm really just pointing my finger at Berlin.
Yeah.
And I'm under the impression it's overrated now. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard for me to comment on. Like, I don't live there.
Very true.
But I know a lot. I would never move there unless I had something. If you were a part of a label, you have a night, you have a residency. Yeah, it would make sense because Berlin is its own small country, especially when it comes to, like, there are so many clubs and events. Like, there are opportunities like there are in our region in a 6 or 7 hour radius. Those opportunities are available in Berlin, but there's 7 million DJs in Berlin.
Yeah,
so
everybody's a DJ.
Yeah, and at the music itself is DJing at some point is not difficult. It's not hard. But there is a certain nuance. Like, there are people who are better than others, but it's hard to, when there's that many people in a very. It's such a fine line between being good or bad and like good and really good. Mm-hmm. And when there's that many people in a small area, of course it's going to get diluted. And there's like the whole mystique of Berlin, and part of it is justified, and maybe part of it is a little overdone and it's been going on too long. I don't know, but I would not move there unless I had something.
Yeah.
Unless I had something that was like, yeah, I got something and this is going to be a big step. Because once you start playing there and you're playing in, Panorama Bar or something,
you can make it anywhere then.
Yeah, I mean, that's
it's given.
And I mean, I've been there, to a couple nights in Berlin, and it is pretty different. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty intense. Like, also, I mean, the music also gets pretty hard up there. I'm still kind of a housey boy.
Yeah. Well, you just need to go to the right evening.
Yeah,
I've seen some beautiful house sets there with like the good disco funk that is included in a good house set in Berlin.
I mean, Cynthia lives there. It can't be that bad.
Yeah. But I'm thinking it's a good point. Like, you almost need something tangible already lined up to justify such a move. But I know quite a few people who try to make the jump there, and it's sort of like the way I see it. It's like when someone in America is like, I want to be a movie star, so they move to LA.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe it works for some people and there's a lucky break. I know that I am nowhere near, my personality is not contagious enough to go there and like 3 months in, just be like everywhere. And like, I'm not that charismatic. I'm not that, I can't market myself like that. That's not how I work. So that would never be something on my radar. for that, I'm pretty patient and slow moving with that stuff,
No, maybe get yourself a manager.
Honestly, I definitely need someone because I'm not good at that stuff. I also don't care, man.
Yeah.
It's not super important to me, that stuff. I don't know. I don't play that often, but I'm like, dude, if you want to hear, you can click on my links or not. You don't have to. I don't really care that much. If you want to come see me, I think it's gonna be cool. I'm going to play a set. I think it's going to be worth your time. If you'd like to see it, please come. Yeah. I think it'll be good. I think I have something worth saying. If not, I kind of don't want you there then. And I learned that in the States because I was begging all these people to always come to these, DIY or underground events, and these people who had nothing, like no business going to that stuff. Yeah. People who are not involved in that culture, don't understand, the, basic principles of it, or, don't have a eclectic taste in music. And I'm trying to convince these people that this stuff is good. And at some point, I got advice from other people, but also I realized, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to ask you. If you want to come, you'll come. If you want to listen, you'll listen. Yeah. And you have to kind of make music with that in mind. Like, it has to be good enough for people to click on it without you having to force it on them. Yeah. If you want to make something like that, in my eyes, is going to stand up in like 5-10 years, and you're going to be like, it's still good, And that goes for trying to put sets together now. In Corona time, we're not playing in clubs. And so, these sets or these podcasts, like what we did today, I take it in a different direction than maybe, I would normally, just playing an hour or an hour and a half, because you have to say something. I think you have to say something that is like a little bit more, I don't know. It's like, it is one piece. And if it has a kind of theme, not like a theme, but if it has themes throughout where you're like, this is this person and this is what he has to say, and it's very clear where he comes from, and I understand this person, whether you like the music or not, that is so much more valuable, and that has also been interesting, navigating streams and podcasts and mixes through this time, because it is very different. I've also been tempted to do like a selectors. I was actually contemplating doing something more like that today, like a selectors thing, because I also, I don't just listen to house and techno all the time, almost, but, and there's so much good music out there, but, I also just like really miss DJing on nice sound systems and stuff like that right now. So it's weird. I don't know. Have you had what is your relationship with playing like gigs right now? Like,
absolutely no gigs. What's my relationship? I'm pretty single.
No, I mean, like, but playing through Corona, like how have you approached, like, you did the Kaya mix as well. Like, did you have a like little forethought on what you were going to do?
Definitely. Okay. But I've always had genuinely, especially now with Corona, it's like, I don't tell people, but like my mixes are really fucking deep, and maybe I'm just feeding my own ego,
perspective.
But I really put a lot of thought into especially lyrics. I say that I believe that I'm a huge fan of rap and conscious rap, so off that just lyrics, and if people actually take the time to sort of like listen to the lyrics, they can tell like there's a story going on. Or I did a mix for Isolation Sounds. Really didn't focus on like mixing technique. Like I've actually thrown technique out the window recently, because I'm just trying to really present a storyline of sort of the emotions that are going on in the world right now. And I did that for Isolation Sounds, and my mix is actually a mix you can play on a loop, and it will always repeat itself.
Wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Wait, is the first track the same as last track?
Yeah. And it like slides right.
Naughty dog, you.
Yeah. Not many people know that. Like, unless they read the actual description, but like it's a long description, nobody reads this stuff, or they like quickly breeze through it.
Well, I clearly didn't, because I just asked about it. I'm sorry, I did.
No worries. Because it's a thing for me, and like I get you understand cool, that. Like you do it for you. You're just saying, hey, if people recognize it, then good for them. I'm not going to beg, and that's sort of the approach that I take. But like if people listen to my mix, I'm actually like, especially the one with the Isolation Sounds where it's a loop. I'm actually trying to, I want to shake up people's reality or their perception of reality, because a lot of people want to go back to the old ways without trying to think of a possibly new way. And also that's a lot of what we've been used to is just a construct. That's why I use the song. I play... I first build up the set with the sort of the Black Lives Matters theme of anger, frustration towards oppression, and then make a quick pivot to All You Need Is Love by the Beatles, which is a classic everybody knows, and then make a pivot again right after that track to Your Life Is a Lie by MGMT, to really just emphasize like this is all just a construct, like a lot of like with the social justice movement, a lot of people don't see the metaphors that are going on behind it, and it's actually a lot of like a little bit of an illusion to sort of or that's this is just my thoughts, but I have also read books into it and everything, and I do my due diligence before taking some serious critique on something, and I have a critique towards the way things are going.
Yeah.
Because it sort of it feels like a big paradox that's going on. And I think once we start realizing that it's a paradox, we'll be able to sort of break through it, and we could probably build a better world. But right now it's too much of like us versus them mentality. But who is them? You are them at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's actually just, you are constructing an idea of them.
Yeah.
And they're constructing an idea of you. And there's just this massive miscommunication because nobody's actually wanting to exercise a dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection to sort of social media because everybody is talking, but nobody's listening.
Yeah. Totally.
And it sort of comes from like my experience, like, you know, there's a lot of content I consume, but in the world, and there's like a lot of like these positive content, and I'm a big fan of that. But a lot of people,
you're a positive guy.
Thank you. But there's a lot of these ideas. It's sort of like a lot of people just want to leave it at an idea. They fail to make the connection from the thought to the material world, or trying to actually take the action about it. And I also believe a lot of people are falling into booby traps that are being set up by other people who are power hungry. They're just using some sort of like moral high ground to make you feel like, okay, now you're on the moral high ground.
I mean, are you talking about like political correctness kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a weird like relationship with that idea, because like there is like very positive things that come out of it, because like we should probably like evolve what we say and like how we think about what we say, but this like gotcha game, like the left is hurting itself so much.
Oh, dude, it's brutal.
Yeah, man. But yeah, whatever. I don't know.
That's okay. I could go.
That's depressing, dude. Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude. That's a subject. I just finished a good book by Candace Powers. She is a Black conservative. A lot of the stuff she says is where I'm just like, okay, maybe you were just it felt like she was just a little bit picked on for being she was picked on by Black people and was told she was white, and therefore she's a little bit out there for a vengeance against the Black community somewhat. That was sort of like, because she talks about her childhood and being bullied. And that's when I was like, okay, so this may be deeper lying. But she brings up very good factual arguments. And that's sort of like what I want to pay attention to, is like, okay. And if you look on the spectrums, you can look everywhere on a political spectrum. All we got to do really is just like understand the other side. And maybe then, right, like just try to understand, make that intention. Because,
or sit down with them.
Yeah.
Like, actually, you know, I don't know.
That's really it. There's this cool dude, Daryl Davis, who's this blues musician who is Black, and he's known for having converted over 300 KKK members and neo-Nazis.
Oh, wow.
And the way he does it is he gets into contact with them, builds a relationship with them, and then just through that relationship shows them that all they're doing is just making constructs in their head of minorities or whatever they're against, he sort of shines light on it, but he has to do it the hard way that I think we aren't willing to do in society, of actually sitting down and just slowly digging at it.
It's time intensive to make relationships with people like that.
Yeah,
especially if you're not around those people. If those people aren't in your life. I'm from a place, you know, the Midwest, and also Omaha, Nebraska, and North Dakota are both, you know, conservative places. So I have friends and family and people that I like that are near and dear to me that are very much on the other side of a lot of things. Like I can disagree about a lot of things, like taxes and all that stuff with people. That's fine. We can have talks about that stuff. There's certain things I don't have any room for. But you do understand, I understand why people voted for Trump. I know that because I know a lot of them and I get it.
Yeah.
Because I know them and I know what they consume online and I know where their standpoints are, like where their viewpoints are. And it makes sense. It makes sense because, it doesn't mean I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're any more right, but I also understand them, and I don't want to hate them either. Now, there's certain viewpoints that I think are unforgivable, like that I don't have any room for again, but, coming from a place like that, like I resent a lot of those, traditional or old ideas, just as much as any other left-leaning person, but, I have a lot more time for some of those people because I know them, I still am friends with them. I still talk to them, now that I moved here and most of my friends are, within the raving community and the underground, I don't really come in contact with those people. So sometimes I lose my reference point because I'm like in this like weird, I'm in my little liberal bubble. I'm in my little paradise of like, just amazing gay paradise, this gay freedom paradise in the club where it's just like everyone is, colorful and whatever. And that's not really how the world is, because if you don't see that, if you don't, then you have you don't know. If you're not friends with those people, if you're from a city where there's no black people and, it's pretty likely that those people are probably going to be a little bit racist, and that's not, it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
Again, but I know those people.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. I don't know, but to make the relationships to try and change people's mind, that it takes a lot of time, and it doesn't always work. I've also had those relationships where, I was working on people for a long time and trying to be like, well, what about this? Be like, well, I know that you think this, but like this guy isn't religious and he's gay. So, he doesn't, so why he's not in your rules. So like, why does he have to be in your rules?
Yeah.
Like,
because their rules all.
Yeah. And, but after a while you start to kind of get to them. But if you're not around those people all the time, they also forget about you.
Yeah.
Just as I've forgotten about, all the church shit and all those rules that are, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that it's based around having a cup of coffee with someone.
Yeah.
And like
inviting them over for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, just getting in dialogue. Just
yeah.
Yeah.
But also controlling the information. We have a responsibility to control the information that we, read and that we share and how we talk to people. And, the information landscape at the moment is also pretty grotesque. And it's pretty sad how willing people are to sacrifice any type of dignity or anything else just to, make money or instill fear in people. It's really sad.
Oh yeah.
It's really sad. That's kind of actually what I got out of Trump at some point. I'm just like, dude, you're the saddest human being I've ever seen. It really just a sad, angry old man. I don't. It doesn't make it right. Again, it doesn't make it right. But I'm just like.
But imagine the circumstances he went through to end up like that.
I mean, yeah, he's eating off a golden plate for his whole life. He doesn't know. He's not from the real world.
Yeah.
It's very sad. Like he doesn't have. I don't know him, obviously, so I can't say this, but I can only imagine that he does not have the actual contact with human life that I have had in the same way.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that's super sad because I'm not perfect and I'm not, I'm maybe not living the perfect or greatest life ever, but like I'm doing okay, I think. And there's a lot of things that are super dirty and raw that you experience going through normal shit that a person goes through. And if you don't experience that, like what is human, like what is being human without that stuff? It's like also why records are great. Like what, it skips sometimes and it fucks up and it cracks and DJs make mistakes, dude. Musicians make mistakes, but sometimes it's nice to hear that. it's nice to hear the mix get wrong. It comes back in, you're like, oh yeah, someone's up there still. Someone's doing something, and that happens in life. And you're like, yeah, shit happens, and not everything is just perfect and clean and nice and
Yeah.
How do you what is the it depends what you want. It really depends what you want, and it depends what you value and what you think is important. And that comes from your background and what you consume, and for some reason I think 303 and boom boom music in a dark room is super important. No, I mean, that's
I'm a fan of 303.
Oh, of course. But yeah, man, sad human, but whatever. He probably thinks the same thing about me. So
Trump.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, I have no clue. We're also just as disconnected from their world as they are from our world. His world and our world, we're just as disconnected.
Yeah, but that world has nothing of value for me. There's nothing there.
That's why you're not there.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born there either, and I wasn't destiny. I wasn't supposed to be there. I have no urge to get there, and that's not, that's an empty place for me. That stuff doesn't have anything for me. I do enjoy the little struggle. Like, the struggle is not fun, but the overcoming of those little struggles to, like, and little dirt on your fingernails, it's not bad. You feel connected to earth and to people and to just like living a normal, like, just
being
not
human.
Normal, but like, yeah, being human, like being an animal, like, of the earth, and not just being this robot thing that just like exists because, it's like, this isn't just like all numbers and a competition to who can get the most numbers. It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is the point? That's silly. I don't know.
Oh, to crush your opponents.
Only when I'm DJing, that's the only time. I will crush you.
No, but at the same time, I understand sort of like competitive nature, and I do get pumped up with a good competition. And I love the game of
me too.
going out. But as long as like I'm not losing or sacrificing any of my core values, then I can go at it, and will never be a dirty player or try to punch somebody in the nuts.
Yeah, no. I mean, I mean, we both played sports for a really long time, like rather competitively. So like I am so competitive, and DJing is really no different. I mean, the DJ culture in the States, especially with old school guys, I was kind of brought up around a lot of older school guys. It is a lot more competitive, like in the way that, it's not also hip hop DJing. It's like kind of battle. You're like kind of like, well, watch this, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, well, I got something else for you, and I don't mind that, because at the end of the day, like, you're both smiling and you're both, making people happy, and it's about, there is something on the other side of it. You're not trying to like actually kill people or steal or anything, that's a little much. But yeah, I mean, once if I'll play back to back with anyone, and it's always going to be like, well, okay, I gotta take this guy right now. Like, here we go, But at the end of the day, it's like, is this good for the party? Is it good for the people? Is this have artistic integrity? But also, I'm gonna kick your ass, dude. Fuck you. I'm better than you.
I understand.
But I hope the other person is doing the same thing as me. Like,
because that's the way you can push each other.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's like very tongue in cheek, and I enjoy that. And there's a time and place for it, obviously. Yeah. You don't need to do that when you're teaching someone to DJ. It's not. You're not. You know what I mean?
Guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I've been accused of that by more than one person. Definitely.
Okay.
Do you really need to do it right now? I'm like, I can. Do you want to see it again? No, just kidding. Not really.
No, like, I've had that moment where like teaching somebody to DJ, and then they do something really, really nice, and there comes this like competitiveness out. I'm like, oh, okay. I want to make sure that they know who here.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I think it's important. I think it comes from the history of DJing, and maybe not as much in house, but house is also very connected to hip hop, and that's part of it, dude. That's it's okay to be good at stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also not the best. I'm very aware of that. I love when, you just get totally embarrassed by someone. You're like, wow, man, I got it.
Do you genuinely love that?
Yeah. Not in the moment, not really. Of course, there's a moment, but then,
It's motivating.
yeah, I'm too competitive that I really like that. And I was just like that in soccer. I don't like when it's not hard. It's hard for me to get motivated.
Yeah.
And when there's no pressure, it's hard for me to get motivated. I'm much more motivated. And there's a point where, if it's a gig or a game where the stage is big enough and the pressure's on, where you can't really make a mistake because, like I said, at the end of the day on CDJs, like, it's not hard. Like, you can do it. It's not like this isn't rocket science. I'm not playing the violin. Like, I'm gonna be able to do it. But when someone really humbles you and they then
They put you in your spot.
Yeah, you're like, okay, this really simple thing that I thought I was decent at, I got, there's still stuff to do because they can do a bunch of stuff. Like I said, you play a very different set than I would, but we can both learn things from each other, and that's not saying one person's better or worse. But I mean, there are things that you are much better than me at.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I mean, there has to be, or
I don't know. I don't even. I try to avoid to compare myself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah,
but that is a reality, and that's okay. And like it's also okay. It's okay to embrace that, and that's why you want to book a wide range of people, and that's why you want to, whether that's involving more women or people of color or younger people and older people, and playing, like, your radio show always has many different genres. It's not like strictly this and strictly that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people with stuff to say.
Yeah. And
that's okay. It's not wrong. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different. There are things within those things that are better or worse. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that in art there's like good and bad? Like, that's a very...
It's a subjective question. Yes, I think there's good and bad. In the sense of there's different rules. It depends what genre. We got to first look at what genre are we in, and there's certain genres that are more traditional, and they have certain set rules. And what I love is when somebody respects the rules but bends the rules.
Yeah.
But there's some people who claim to be part of a genre or do something, and they're not even holding on to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like they're trying to create something out of it, and sometimes it really is like just a shot in the dark. But that's very rare occasions where somebody makes a shot in the dark, and it's actually they have a very good accuracy. But I think we do need to respect somewhat the rules of the game. And it's about being creative within this framework. And
we all have the same notes.
Yeah,
there's only 12. 12, yeah.
Well,
we all have the same keyboard.
Yeah,
and there's not that much, but like the songs keep coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's sort of it. And it's like some people will want to go frantically across it, but they like. I think it's one of those things with being creative is like you got to know somewhat of the rules of the game that you're about to play to be able to be relevant. You can't just run into there and just start saying, "Hey, I'm great." It's like running onto a soccer pitch and the ball, you coincidentally run across the ball, or you're just chasing the ball the whole time, and at one point you get the ball in your hand and onto your feet and you kick it somewhere. And then it's like, oh yeah, I did that. And it's like, yeah, but fucked up the whole coordination for the whole team.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole team around you had to like redo it. So it's like you gotta somewhat respect the rules, and then it's like within that, that's where I see the beauty. Is like, okay, now we're in the framework. How are you handling it? Where's your how gracious are you with it? And that's my question too. Is there good art or bad art.
Yeah. I mean, that is very applicable, I think, what you just said to like actual like DJ mixing. I am a big fan of like DJs who like to mix and like to play and like really, I also like those kind of tracks, like especially for club nights. Like there's times for there's times to play good songs, like be more focused on lyrics and those type of things. There's also time to play like club tools and stuff like that. And if you want to play that stuff, for me, it makes more sense to like want to play it and like create something new out of it. And again, the mixing part is not that hard at some point. And there's, most of the time there's only 3 EQs and there's only, 2 discs and there's only this and this. There's very limited space to move, but, how you move within that limited space is really where your personality comes out. And if you can do it, differently or just different enough so that someone recognizes it, that's kind of where the art is. A train wreck is a train wreck and no one's going to think that's good. I mean, that's also just math and it just doesn't sound good to our ears, I don't know, but art, good art, bad art, that's a long, hard question. I mean, I'm going to answer my own question now.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, but like you said, I think within different genres and different walks of life, there are things that have been shown to work, and there's a reason those things work. I mean, I think humans have evolved and moved to this point kind of in the only way we could have at some point. Because we like try stuff every day, like people, and we just like are walking through doors and like hitting stuff like since the beginning of time. And the stuff that is here now is kind of, the wheel is really good. The wheel's really good and fire's pretty good. And like, I don't know if we can really do a better wheel. They're making better wheels, but it's also a wheel. There is a rule about a wheel. It should be round. Yeah. That's kind of the end of it. That's kind of
the rules.
A square is a bad wheel. So, within that, you can make it lighter or faster or more aerodynamic or more sturdy or something like that. And all of those things make the wheel a little bit better. But, I don't know. It's this music especially is very abstract and very situational, and you can, that's also why mixes and podcasts also kind of suck, because it's like, you can play.
You made a mix.
I know. It sucked. No, I mean, but like, you can play an hour for someone and you can play some kind of strange tracks, but if it's at the party or at the club or at the house or whatever, and it worked in that moment, it's the best thing that ever could have happened.
Oh yeah.
But you can't redo that, so it's like, well, it's really hard. And there's like all this weird arrogance that comes out of especially house and techno and underground stuff, which some of it is deserved, some of it isn't, because it is kind of the next step, really. But also it's like kind of like, guys, we're all doing the same thing here. Very few people are geniuses. Like, let's chill out a little bit. Like let's just remember where we are, remember what we're doing. But it's totally situational. So there can be good. You can play Donna Summers in a certain situation, but if you play it in the wrong moment, in the wrong time, people would be like, dude, this track again. Yeah. Like, come on, dude, I feel love. I've heard that thing a million times. But if you play it in the right spot, it'd be like, oh, dude, I love this track. It's the best track ever. It's like totally undeniable. But it would have been kind of inappropriate for me to play it today, in my opinion. Like, that would not have been appropriate. Because why?
We all know it.
Yeah, and it also didn't fit with the rest of my music today. But, if we're having a, party after Corona and, there's people, it was whatever, and it doesn't really matter the number of people, but if it worked in that time, it's good. Yeah. There's still principles, again, that in which it needed to function and in order for it to be good. Yeah. But it can be good and it can be bad. And that's also what makes this music so mind-boggling to me. I just keep hearing it and I keep getting surprised and excited every time. It's crazy. It just never stops. It never stops. It's so weird, man.
Have you had those moments where 6 years down the road, a track hits you, and it feels like you're listening to it for the first time, or you rediscover something, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And like before, it was just like the B-side of something from years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that vinyl is really cool for that reason, because those things, they just kind of like sit there, you know, and you don't accidentally delete them unless you sell it, you know. I have that a lot with some like older indie dance stuff and some indie rock stuff, and I try and implement those things into my set because that's where I'm from. That's what I listened to when I was younger, like I'm old now.
In your second career.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I listened to in, you know, high school and middle school, and like that was the music that spoke to me. That was also the music of that time, really. Like that era. I'm really sad I wasn't old enough to really experience that, because that era of LCD Sound System and Phoenix and MGMT and, you know, Arctic Monkeys, like that time will never happen again. Like that's over. It is over. It's like super sad.
The news.
I'm sorry, dude. I mean, it's been over though. You know what I mean? But like that genre is kind of over, because also those people are older and things have moved on from them.
They have kids, families. They got fat because they got the money.
Yeah, or like or like emo music, you know, or like My Chemical Romance, or like Boys Like Girls, or something like that. Like at the time, it was like, you know, this is pretty cheesy still at the time, but it was like it totally worked and it was kind of cool.
It'll have a resurgence one day.
Yeah, it will, but it will never be like that.
Yeah,
you know, it will. It's kind of over, and you know, some to rediscover some of those things, or like parts of it, and to like use parts of it as like influence is really cool. But I'm having that more with some of the indie dance stuff, and you know, but a lot of this like more on the LCD Sound System tip, like, and the DFA stuff, like they are still within those boundaries of that, but just on a more electronic side of it. You know, and like Roman Fuge is a really good example, actually. Like he makes some mean techno and some warehouse stuff and some very amazing, beautiful, deep, melodic, just gorgeous house music. You know, it's like almost not even house. We call it big boy house, actually. I call it, or my uncle called it that, big boy house. And but he's also very influenced from this like indie dance stuff. He does a lot of like remixes of those things and uses those parts, and that to me is also really cool, that this music continues to turn over and to use everything that's always coming in. There's no limit to what it can do, and we're still, house music's like 40 years old, dude.
Yeah.
How? That's
Hmm.
really crazy. And we're still playing stuff that came out then, and we're like, damn, this is fresh. No, this is from 92. And you're like, really? Yeah, this is from 92. What?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it like keeps working and it keeps reinventing itself. I don't see an end to it. I don't see an end to it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's going to continue to evolve. Like, we're not going to keep playing the same stuff over and over, but like, I feel love keeps getting played.
No, it will forever. Yeah.
And there's not that many tracks on that level, obviously, but like...
But you actually find that in a lot of genres that are still predominant today. Like hip-hop still continues on, and it's like, you play you play Juicy by Biggie Smalls, it's like, everybody's going to sing to it, whether it's... I don't know, actually, if like the 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids actually know who Biggie Smalls is.
Well, a hip-hop head would, though. I mean, it's different within DJ culture, because like, you know, rock and metal, and if you're a cover band, like the cover bands are kind of like, well, you know, that's like a, but that's like a lesser form of that stuff. But like DJ, like presenting hip hop or like presenting house music, like that's kind of the only way to do it. Unless, you know, hip hop, there's obviously, I mean, there's actual acts like that is the main form of it, but hip hop DJs are super prevalent.
Yeah.
You know, and that, because you can continually present that music and you can always reinvent it with the mix and the remix and that stuff, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop, you know? Like, AC/DC is still going to be a classic, but it's not played in the same way. It's not going to continue to be, it's not the same for me. It's different, but, you know, it's different. It's just not going to be played in the same way as like electronic music and hip hop is continually replayed and reformed. Like that doesn't happen in rock music. You know, it's like I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm kind of figuring this out right now. I feel like I'm just like thinking out loud.
That's exactly what this platform's for.
You know, I don't know what, because I love that, like rock and roll and also some metal stuff and whatever like that. But I don't know where that's gonna be. You know, in 50 years, I don't know.
I think it's come to its end. That classic rock sound.
Yeah, I mean that, but people still, everyone knows that stuff. You know, but where is it going to be further down? Like what is it going to be used for? Is it just going to be used for stadium stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, that's super sad. That's not what it's for.
Thunder, no. I think there's always going to be loyalists to it. It's there's this thing sort of that. I also studied genres. For a year. Like I studied a few things in the music industry, and genres was one of them. And genres have four, in an evolution of a genre, it has 4 steps.
Okay.
And the first step is avant-garde, when really you're like the only dude doing it, and nobody knows what the fuck you're doing. It's like if you started making music farting into a kazoo, and then all of a sudden it turns into the next step of a scene. All of a sudden there's other people farting in a kazoo.
Wow, nice.
And
they're pre-gaming with like beans and like Brussels sprouts and stuff. Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. No, but that's actually how genres evolve.
Yeah.
They're avant-garde, nobody really gets it, and then like soon people gather around it, then other people are like, oh, I like this, I'm going to try to do this myself. Then it moves into the part where it gets commercialized, business, where it turns into a business where all of a sudden now it's global, you're sending it around the world. And that's sort of, when it comes to the evolution of the genre itself, the big steps are found in the avant-garde and the scene-based. The business side is when it starts getting sort of molded into the next step, which is traditional. When a sound becomes traditional, or a genre, or the genre becomes traditional, it essentially, you can't really, those are the rules. The rules are now set in stone, and you can't, you can either, you have to take those rules and apply it again, almost one for one, but then it's like you're just being a copy of that. It's sort of like classical music. Classical music is one of our oldest traditional genre. Where you really don't have much room for innovation because it's been done. It's there now, and
unless you start implementing electronic elements and.
But then it's
Jeff Mills style.
But see, here's the thing: is this techno now in its evolution? Is this the part of the evolution that's just pulling upon classical, or is this the evolution of classical? I would say it's actually the evolution of techno more than classical.
It depends what stuff. So if we're talking about Jeff Mills, it depends which part of his compositions we're listening to, I guess. Yeah. Because there's I think there's both sides of it, where it's like techno with the influence of the other side and classical with influence of techno. That is a really interesting question. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Or is he now trying to pave a new crossbreed of mixing sounds? But then if you look at the rules of hip hop, that's actually what he's doing. If you want to see it at a level of he's fusing 2 genres, then he's actually doing more hip hop, because that's one of the rules of hip hop.
Or house, really.
Yeah. And it's these are sort of like philosophical music questions to be asked, and but when coming down to the sort of like rock and roll, and like whether it's going to be stadium, I think there's going to always be the person who wants to play some AC/DC or some Van Halen and just rock out in their car.
But how is it presented in like a live format? I think is more my question.
Cover bands, unfortunately.
But that's not a good answer.
Have you?
No, but it is an answer. But that is not the same.
Have you seen what they do here in Germany?
Yes,
they do. These cover bands of these
cover bands
of like
at the Cava is really important. I know that, but like that music was not made to be presented in that way, and it also wasn't meant to be like presented by a DJ.
Nor was Beethoven's.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay.
He just scored it and was, but then you got to look at like the evolution of sort of like the music itself. Like during Beethoven's era, they didn't have records. They didn't. The way they shared music was by handing you a script and saying, "You got those guys over there. Tell them to play this."
Or being there, yeah.
Yeah, or just being there when it's going off. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
and that's sort of what jazz was the beginning of this whole what we see music now today was essentially the classical people being like, yo, let's get this funky.
Jazz scales are just slight variations of major and minor scales.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, blues scale is just a variation of major scale.
So that's where you just like slide a few things up.
Yeah, a couple half steps and things.
Yeah,
but they were made by accident though.
Yeah, or yeah.
No, they were. Do you know that actually?
No, I actually didn't.
It was like from like slaves in the fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, like those melodies and things like those, they were not written down like for a long time, and then eventually they wrote them down and they saw like how they were structured, and it was because it was improvised from the beginning. Like
yeah,
blues and jazz was improvised from the beginning. It was not written down. It was it's crazy. That's like the ultimate for me. Like that music is for me it's like the highest form, really. That's why I don't do it, because I'm not good enough. Because I'm not a real musician. Like that's the I mean, that goes back to the structure you're talking about, like being within the rules and being like, but then being able to bend the rules. Like Miles Davis, he knows all his scales. He knows them. People, I don't want to take lessons, or I'm not classically trained. He knows all his scales. Because he knows them, he doesn't need them.
Yeah, and that's sort of like what I see with creativity. It's sort of like go know it, and then come back and see what you can produce.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, there's especially like this era of like we live in a pretty narcissistic era.
Yeah.
Where everybody just wants to show off their work, and I feel like a lot of people will just be, out of their own self-interest of their image, want to make something without paying homage to all those people beforehand who really molded this and made this cool to the point where you now want to almost mimic it or be part of it. So go open your history book and your archive of music and start digging deep. You don't need to dig that deep. You don't need to kill yourself for it, but be open-minded to go listen to that.
I mean, it's not hard to go listen to, Derek May and Jeff Mills and Frankie Knuckles, and there's documentaries, there's stuff. Like if you want to know about house and techno, you should go learn about it, because you're gonna be a better DJ afterward. Yeah. Because those guys, those are the guys, man. Like, they know what's going on. Like they're good, and they made this thing like that. I don't know, like that stuff, it's really important to me. I also started there, and like I said, I was around, and my uncle is probably my biggest like mentor for like DJing stuff and music, and I mean he's been DJing for a long time, and so he has a lot more access to a lot of music, and the more music you have, the wider your music taste becomes, and the farther back you go, and but you're also relevant, and you learn about that old stuff, and it just makes you better. Yeah. I think you also gain a lot of, I don't know, like credit, and you just have like more, I don't know,
knowledge. You respect the game more.
Yeah, and people are like more willing to respect you because they're like, yeah, I did his homework. Yeah. But the thing you said about what was it? Presenting your stuff. And just being like, you want to present your stuff. People want to present their music and show off and show their stuff. If it's about showing your stuff and playing your music and presenting it, I don't know that I have a problem with that. It's when that is not the most important part. Just like shut up and play, dude.
Yeah.
Like shut up and play. Stop. Don't. It doesn't have to be a big show. Not everything has to be a show, and not everything has to be this big ad for you, especially. It's like, it has nothing to do with you, like it's not about a person, it is about experiences. Especially the club music is about experiences and moments and community and expanding your mind, and you know, and it's like, shut up, dude, play the records. Shut up and play this stuff. And like, if you're so good, my mom always said it to me, if you're so good, you don't have to say it because everyone's going to know. So like, play the thing, man. Play the good records and no one's going to talk. Like everyone's going to have their eyes closed because that heat is coming out, you know? I struggle with that actually, like trying to promote myself because you have to, you know, because you can't just sit in your room and like make 100 tracks and then like you have to give them, you have to kind of do a little bit of it, but it's like, how do you do it in a respectful way where it's like, this is about the music. I happen to have made it. This is cool. I think you should look at it, blah, blah, blah. But it's worthwhile. And I think it's good. Like, how do you think, I guess, then how do you advertise for yourself? I'm asking this because I need to know because I have no idea.
I'm trying to figure that out. I personally have the issue of advertising myself versus advertising for others. When it comes to myself, I don't want to play too much into this, like, hey, listen to this, I mean, force feed it down people. I normally, like, whenever I make a song, and actually quite often the way I release my songs is I make it in the same day, and that evening when I'm, like, ready to just throw in the hat, and I think it's good enough, and I'm vibing with it, or it just has that piece of me where I'm like, this can see the day, this can see the daylight, then I post it, and then I'll just do something very minimal of like, making an Instagram picture with the link in the description. Don't want to go big into doing stories. I do want to give the people the chance, like, hey, they can click on it, because that's, I think, the least I can do is being like, hey, here's a little piece of me. But I don't want to go big around promoting it. I'll send the link to like a few friends where I'm just like, I know I have some friends who like to get updated on it. And then I just sort of leave it at that. And hope that one day somebody's playing it in some club or some party, house party, or in the car somewhere in a complete other place and they don't even know me.
Yeah, but like like, I guess then the question is, you make something really good, you know, and you're like, people need to have this, you know, and it deserves a bit more, it deserves more push because this is worthwhile. Like I think it's worthwhile. I think it's good, but I need to expand how many people get this. Like, at what point is it way too much, you know? I mean, there's not an answer to that, but it's just like, I struggle with that a lot. Like, I send my links, I mean, I make club music mostly. I'm not making beautiful music, really. Like, I'm making kind of cool stuff, but it's not like really high art stuff. Like, I'm making stuff for people to play in a DJ setting. And so I'm like kind of like shameless about sending it to people who I think will play it. But like promoting it on a like a bigger scale to like, hey, you know, you should buy this, or like really trying to push it. I really struggle. I really struggle with trying to find the balance of what is way too much, because people are like, yeah, cool, dude. Like, I also made 20 tracks. Like, I don't care. You know, it's like, where I don't know. I don't know where the balance of that is.
It's very true.
Because I also don't really believe in like having a brand or like a thing or like I'm me, dude. Like, that's just whatever. Like,
that's your brand.
Yeah, but I show up. I'm like, yeah, I DJ too. This is my thing. I think it's, you know, like I said, I think it's worthwhile. Yeah. But, you know, there's also times where you make something, you're like, this is definitely where, you know, it's not just me, it's you as well, or anyone. Yeah. You make something, you're like, I gotta send this to everyone, you know.
And then I send it to a little bit more in my network further. Yeah. But that's actually a very good point. I listen to a lot of like interviews by other artists, or especially hip hop artists, and I came across one that was featured in a friend's story, Ash Cartel, and he shared a story by Russ, the rapper Russ.
Okay.
And he essentially said, you got to become first you have to become the biggest fan of your own shit.
Mm.
Because if you're not a big fan of your own shit, who else can be?
Yeah, true.
And it's like, it went along the lines of like that arrogance that you sort of need to have.
Yeah.
To be able to share that music. It's like you gotta almost convince the other people that, hey, this is worthwhile. It's just it's a little bit difficult when like a personality is very anti that, but maybe it's like, and this is one thing that I'm always thinking about when it comes to creativity, or generally life, fear. Some people are even could be fearful of having too much of an ego, or having their ego be more focused on them.
I've shared that fear with you before. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I've shared. I mean, I guess I'm sharing it now as well.
Yeah.
In that question. Yeah.
No, but it's a very, very good point, because it's sort of like, if that's a fear, almost. Just imagine all the other people who are also scared of exactly that, and who actually are doing great shit, not just in music, but in life, and whatever domain that they love. Maybe they could be the next innovator, but because they fear that idea of their ego being pushed too far, or them being too focused on themselves, that could maybe, that fear itself is a barrier. Yeah. And I'm almost contemplating if that's almost selfish, and if that is not maybe more egoistic itself.
Yeah, definitely. No, I know what you're saying.
If you're like, oh, I don't want, like, you could really see it as like, oh, I don't want people to think I am too great. And right there, and that is, it's still ironically being part of yourself. Yeah. And therefore,
trying to be a really good guy.
Yeah.
I always get hurt, man. I'm such a good guy.
Yeah, good guys don't get girls. That idea, that whole.
No, you're right.
But it's a very difficult thing to sort of go about, because it's like, everybody wants to be, or I'm hoping everybody wants to be authentic. And then it's like,
I don't think so, but
I think they want to be authentic, but they don't realize they're authentic.
Who's everybody? That's a lot of people, man. I think a lot of people really don't care.
Maybe we should be maybe more like them.
Maybe.
Just generally, everybody should be a little bit. But I was just talking about how
maybe we are already, and we're totally not reading ourselves right.
Could also be. Existence is just one big paradox. Just this mirage where you're both right and wrong. You're both selfish, selfless. That's just very philosophical.
Yeah.
Thing. But I think fear is something we should really be talking more about.
Yeah.
Because I think fear is what's holding a lot of people back.
Yeah.
Especially now, I think a lot of people are fearful of like the future, and they're fearing of letting go of the past.
Yeah.
And they're not letting the cool new universe that's about to unfold before us to fall into their lap.
Yeah.
Because they're just too fearful of letting go and sort of the unknown. And I think in arts, fear is what holds back most artists. Or I think, most artists are just held back by fear.
Yeah.
And I think there are artists who aren't genuine in themselves. I think they also are fearing that they won't be liked. Yeah. So that's why they're doing copy and paste.
Yeah.
Type of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard. I don't know the answer, man. I don't know the answer. I'm trying to find it, but that's all we can do, I guess, is try and find it.
I would love if a listener would know the answer and write it in.
I hope not, because they would have solved a lot of world problems by then. What is good, what is beautiful, and what is right? I don't know. Those are the three. Yeah. And I'm not sure we're going to figure those out anytime soon. But
where do you think your fear sort of lies with art, within the art?
Which part? Which, like, in the DJing part, or in the production part, or in the whole thing, or?
The whole thing.
Okay. I think probably authenticity.
So what we just talked.
Yeah, I think that's generally what I don't want to be. Yeah, I don't care for the fake stuff. I feel as though I've had very real experiences with raw music and raw people, and people that have experienced hurt, and you feel that coming out of their art and music, or in their DJ sets. And I know that is good, and I know that is better, and I know that it's right. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to really say what you want to say without saying it, especially like in a DJ context. I think authenticity. Perhaps I think that would probably be the biggest one. I don't want to, because I really care about the music and the scene. It's really important to me. It's really changed my life in a lot of ways, and the way I see the world, the way I see art, and the way I'm not as linear of a person as I was, post rave, post DJ, because the first time you see two records mixed together, you lose your mind. And I was like, and it's still fun, and I still think it's the funniest, coolest thing ever, and it's so silly. It's so silly, but I think it's so cool. And I think for some reason it really connects with us. This raw, stripped down music with sounds and a beat and a drum and a groove. And it's so minimal, and it's people in a very exposed and free environment in which they are like relying on animalistic instincts of dance and love and everything else. It's super raw and open. And I don't want to taint that or like make that dirty, because I think it's like the most beautiful thing ever. And the music, the art of DJing, and all that surrounds it, that's good and pure. That stuff is really important to me, and I want people to hear that. And if and that's sometimes why I freak out about what am I going to play in this podcast? What am I going to play in this mix? Because I don't, you don't know who's going to listen to it, and people aren't going to listen to every single mix they ever see. It's impossible. And you can't, you don't have that long to get someone's attention, and to say what you want to say, and to, convince someone that, what I'm doing is valuable. And I think that this is, right and good. And so, for me, it's generally been, about whether this is authentic, whether this is raw. Does this make people feel? Does this make me feel? Is this actually who I am, or is this just because, I like the idea of being a cool club kid? That really makes me sick, man. When I see that, I really don't like that. That bothers me. The Instagram club stuff, and where it's like this personality, where it's like I'm this, the whole Berlin thing, and there is something to that. Living the way, living this lifestyle within the music, but it can also be super, super phony and really, really cheap, and it's really insulting, because like the music comes from from people and from places that are from a lot of hurt, and disenfranchised people. This is gay black music. House and techno is gay black music from people who were disenfranchised and who didn't have a space, and they made this music, and they could have a space, and they could express themselves, and that is the most beautiful and pure thing, really, and I really care about that, and I want people to hear that when I play, and it's really hard to let people know that you're being real about it, and that's why I think it's important to play some old records and find stuff that is a little, off the beaten path, and do your work and dig, if that's the music you're playing, obviously, and practice your DJing and get good at it, because it's important to be good at it, because why not? It's not that hard. You can figure it out. And it's not the violin. You can get good at it. We're not going to be DJ Jazzy Jeff. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be A-Track. I know that. I'm not a scratch DJ. But I want to put ideas together that, show people that I am, I believe in this culture. I believe in what it means on a bigger scale. And to present that to someone who might only hear you in a club for 5 minutes as they pass by, it's really hard. And they might only hear one snippet of one of your tracks on SoundCloud or something. And, I want to try and put that into every single thing I do. And there was when I first started writing stuff on Ableton and I was putting some stuff out, I go back and listen to it. I'm just like so disgusted with that stuff, man. It's like, that is not me. And it's so cheap and it's not well done and it should not be on the internet, really. Like, I'm so far away from that. Now I've had a couple of years in Germany and that's like completely changed everything, obviously, within, playing and going out and seeing real DJs do real long sets and, meeting people from every different crazy background, and everyone comes to this little black room and you just learn about life from these people who are just going through some weird stuff. Just like you, and just like me, and just like everyone else. And, to be inauthentic and to have someone, say that, I don't think you're doing this for the right thing, that would just absolutely kill me. that would be the biggest one. Be like, you're not about this. You're not a house DJ. You're not a techno guy. Like, you don't get this shit. You're whack. Be like, that would really hurt me, And so I want to, every time I present something now, it's like my tragic flaw. It's like my biggest strength, maybe. And my biggest weakness is that I'm super nervous or super conscious of every move I make because I'm trying to do it. Now I'm also like pretty reckless sometimes when I mix and I throw stuff around, and I play drums. Like, I'm pretty abrasive sometimes, and I like that part about it. But there's also like a rawness and a realness to that. And that comes also with playing records, and there's mistakes and shit happens, dude. So what? I'm trying to play music. I'm not a computer, and I'm not, it's not talking bad about people who are more into the very precise side of this music, because that's a different art, but that's just not where I'm at. But yeah, that's my really short answer on authenticity and how much it scares me, that I would not, that would really hurt me. And also if I would start to see myself, not in that way, it would be really hard for me to, I've asked people this, if you get offered 10, 20 grand for a night and you have to really play some stuff you're not happy about, what do you do?
That's a hard question.
What do you do? I have no idea. What do you do? What do you do when you get offered that much money? Because you're like, well, now, you're working and you're like doing this thing that's really fun and it's like totally a dream and it's like this complete, it's like not even the real world. That's not a job, but it is a job.
Yeah.
And what do you do when the people in front of you are like, they want this?
I paid for this.
I paid to hear this type of sound and these tracks, and I want to hear Fisher, I'm Losing It. I mean, I'm not going to play it, but what do you do when you have to play it?
Yeah.
I've already been there and I didn't like it. I've done college house parties, but I wasn't getting paid for that. And I got paid a little bit, to be the university DJ. But that wasn't like connected to my artistic integrity necessarily. Yeah. It was a separate thing. And I knew that. But
it's
what
like
happened?
A wedding DJ.
Yeah. And that's I can't do that. There's wedding DJs, they're amazing at what they do. Is it high art? No, it's not. But they're giving people a really important night in their life. It's like, that's a talent and art of its own. I've struggled with that question. You have to turn stuff down. You have to say no to stuff, and you have to, if it's not good, you have to sometimes delete the Ableton project. You're like, this is not good. Delete it.
Damn.
Sometimes you have to be like, no, that's not okay. Or if your mix is not good, you have to be honest with yourself and be like, that wasn't really respectful to the music. I try, it's hard when you're trying your best, obviously, because sometimes it doesn't come off. you know, and I'm pretty hard on myself about like, you know, that stuff and mixing. If it mix like my Kaya set, there was some pretty intense, you know, not super smooth moments. And there were some really good moments in there, and there were also some moments I go back and watch it, and I'm like, you know, I hope someone who watches this also watches something else, because that's not, you know, that's not everything I got, you know, and it's like a little sad, but it's also, you know,
That's part of it.
You have to put yourself out there too, and you have to take chances. And I also would rather take chances, and, you know, because when it comes off, it's the coolest thing ever, you know, but sometimes it doesn't. And I don't want to, playing it safe is also super boring. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know, I'm not going to play the same subgenre all night, or like, and just be like super smooth. And again, there's an art to that, and I can't do that. I'm not programmed that way. It's just not how I work. I've tried. I can't do it. I cannot do it.
Then don't fucking do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but, I don't know if it makes it harder or easier, you know, to be a little more sporadic, but I think it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
But I gain more value from it that way. I get more out of it that way, you know, and then you get money waved in front of your face, and then are you willing to get something else and then, you know, kind of sacrifice your happiness and your integrity?
Sacrifice your integrity for maybe a year and then get the fuck out.
Yeah, but then who's gonna book you after that though? You know, I mean, I'm like nowhere near this decision. Like this is not a question I'm asking myself every day. Obviously,
this is a total hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Also, it's not on my radar. Like that's not something I'm looking for. When it happens, cool. If not, whatever. I'm happy, you know, doing my stuff. But, yeah, that's a tough one to think about. You know, because it's a really, you like to think you know what the answer is, but you also are like, there's that little devil on your other shoulder. Well, maybe it's devil for some people, maybe it's the angel, I don't know.
I definitely know what type of person I would be. I would.
It depends what you're playing.
Yeah, actually, that's a very it really depends. How much am I sacrificing? Am I totally pulling my pants down and bending over for the audience?
Yeah.
And that is something of a concern if it ever does occur. But I would hope I would make the right decision, and I believe I would make the right decision whether I did it or not. Because I'm somewhat of a person motivated by money. I see it as not really that big of an issue as long as you're sticking to your values. Now, that's something where my values would come and get involved.
Yeah.
But I also see the world in a micro and macro way. And it's like, how long are you going to sacrifice yourself for to make the macro way better? Because like the ideally, what if somebody said, hey, play this EDM stuff, I would definitely try to within that framework to express myself, of course.
I think you would. I think you'd be a sweet EDM DJ, or trap DJ. I think you'd be fun. I think you'd be a little bit different, definitely a little quirky in your own way.
Oh dude, I would be cringy to some people.
I mean, the whole thing is cringy.
Yeah. No, but to the true fans of that type of EDM trap scene, I would be cringy to a good chunk of them, and I would get some hate. But I would go into it with the idea of I'm here to also give my 2 cents a little bit I'm trying to speak your language here.
Yeah, you're not a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, and I want to speak your language and broaden your eyes. And the way I actually got into house music was through EDM, Martin Garrix. It literally became a snowball effect. I got deeper into it, and I was like, all right, what is this from? And I'm also a person who, when I get consumed by something, I need to know at its core, where the fuck did it come from?
In that scene, I think that's a very rare occurrence, as much as some people may like to believe.
But it's I would hope if I were to go there, that there would be that one person in the crowd of 600, 700. Totally, I don't see myself getting into that position where I'm being offered that much. But if that was the case, I would hope that would happen.
Yeah.
I would probably do it for 2, 3, 4 years, get my bag filled, and then really redistribute that wealth into the core and revitalize the core. In the sense of, if you could be making 10K a show and you're able to do 2 shows per weekend, that's 20K per weekend over a summer season. You're probably coming out of a summer season with 400, 500K. You do that for 2 years, you got 2 million. And as long as you yourself are aware and you don't need to like consume frivolous things, you could actually really make that your key to getting out. It's sort of like when the Roman gladiators, like, they were slaves and they knew if they could get to that match, they would have their freedom back.
Yeah. Well, why does that happen then? Like, who is an example of that?
Who?
No. I mean, especially in the house scene.
House,
because they're rejected when they do that. Because the whole principle of the underground is like going against that, right?
Yeah, but what about, I could really point my finger towards hip-hop. If you look at hip-hop, but I think the element in hip-hop is also get the money. And then feed your community with that.
Yeah.
I think maybe the underground should be a little bit nicer to the people who actually want to come back, and want to really try to fix something within the community, or provide more opportunity, set up establishments. Like, how often is it? But this is again hip hop. Like, you see rappers, they make it big and then they move back to their hometown, and they're popping up small businesses, supporting all the locals. There's setting up education programs, and it's like that would only be possible had they not sacrificed themselves for that. It's something a little bit difficult, especially like in the electronic scene. And I will say there's something that goes on in Europe when it comes to the underground and money. A lot of people see money as being super something it doesn't have a positive light. Instead of seeing money as, I just see it as energy, and you can pump that energy elsewhere. You can either pump that energy in buying 6 Benzes, or setting up a music school. And that answer for me is very obvious. I'm one fucking person. I don't need 6 cars. Like,
history has shown that is generally not the case, unfortunately, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's generally not what happens, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's also hard to trust someone who, if you're looking at not from, a community aspect where they're building infrastructure, but like from an art perspective, like, why would you trust, it's Calvin Harris or David Guetta, for example, 2 actually really good examples. It's kind of hard to trust those people now, going backward, like Calvin Harris was more underground at one point and then got, did his thing, and he started kind of releasing like more kind of on the other, on the deeper side and more underground side again, but got a lot of pushback. And like, also for me, it's like kind of like rightly so. It's like, dude, we're not doing the same thing anymore. And it just feels kind of like a money grab again, though. It's like you're coming back and trying to expand because you're always going to have your big top 40 crowd, and then you're just going back and you're just trying to take more people from the other side. It's like, we're not doing the same thing anymore.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the club culture and the underground stuff and the disenfranchised communities, like that idea is you go to those places and it's not about money. It's the last thing you need. And the DJ in a lot of ways is the least important person in the room. If it's a really good DJ, in my opinion, they can be a faceless figure at the front. Like, you don't need to see them because what they're presenting you has such a high value. and it's hard for me to trust a person, trust a person from an arts perspective, like coming back and being like, well, I want to, be part of, music or art that is of high value, or that is pushing the boundaries, and that is authentic and raw. I'd be like, are you sure? Because we're like, you just wanted to, like, we can do it. You can do it without that though. And people have shown that you can do it without, you don't need money for it. Like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
But you also do need it, because also, like, you do need to pay people to work there, and you need to pay lighting and sound guys, and you need to pay DJs, and you need to, there's cleaning crews, and there's lights, and there's clubs, and there's, fines or whatever else. And you have to pay for stuff if you want to, like, make a really nice experience. Like, there is money involved, and that gray area is really hard. It's like, how much is too much, because at the end of the day, DJing is not hard. And why is someone getting, $60K for an hour?
Because people are willing to.
Yeah, I know. That doesn't make, but again, we've talked about this a million times. It doesn't make it right, and it's hard. And then from an integrity standpoint, it's hard to trust that person, that what they're doing it's coming from emotion, because the music itself is monotonous, and it can be very monotone, and it's very, flowing and whatever else. And there's a lot of very small emotion that comes from that long form, presentation of music. And, it's hard for me to, maybe when someone presents that and I know how much they're getting paid, be like, well, it's really hard for me to believe that what you're doing right now is because I'm here, Yeah. It's really hard that I don't feel like I'm connecting with you, or like I don't feel like you're maybe saying anything. I feel like you're doing your job, kind of, and it's like this, because this thing is not supposed to. I don't know that it's supposed to be. It's not a stadium thing, dude. It's for dark rooms and basements and stuff. It's like kids jamming out. It's silliness. Like, it's totally silly. Like, it's the whole thing is tongue in cheek. It's silly sounds put together that sound cool. Like, it's just cool. It's not like, again, this is not Beethoven. This is not, we're not playing super technical things. Like, there are techniques within creating, producing things, and, but at some point it's just kind of cool and silly. And when you, I don't know, I feel like it loses some of that tongue in cheek. Like, it's just kind of like, haha. Like, haha. It's like kind of just this, you're spitting in the face of music, with like techno, because it's just like, I'm going to take all these different boings and beeps and blops. I'm going to put it together, and it's going to be sick. And people hear it, they're like, that's not music. We're like, well, why do people like it so much? Like, why is it so fun? It's like very tongue in cheek. It's very silly, the idea of it, and it's like house music, stealing samples and putting them together and playing them back and forth, and annoying sounds can like hypnotize you into this dream state. And it's like, it is silly, but it loses its silliness for me. And it loses, I mean, for me, it's just like, I don't know. It is kind of like a principle thing. And maybe it's just like me being, just totally having a huge stick up my ass, which is probably partially true. But I don't know. Because you do have to pay people. People have to get paid. And it's cool that people can tour, because people that practice and tour and play a lot, they're good. And you see them play and you're like, wow, they're really good at this silly thing. They're really good at it, and we should pay them to do it. I love paying cover. I love paying 10 or 20 for, maybe not 20, but it's 12 euros to get into Berghain.
Yeah.
Like, because they don't want to like have that be an issue for people.
Yeah.
That it's like, this is a space for everybody. This is a space for everybody.
So prices for
It's
standard prices.
like 12 euro. You can find Pfandflasche if you need to. If you need to, you will figure it out. It's 12 euros. You could do it.
Yeah.
And that is really the, that's really beautiful. That's really good. Also right, in my opinion. But yeah, man, where's the line then? Maybe there's not a line.
There's no line.
And maybe there doesn't have to be one. If you separate the two things, maybe like, that's different than what we're doing over here. That's okay. there's something for everyone. That's okay too. Doesn't, I'm not involved with that. We just make sure we're saying that we're doing, that we're doing different things. Like, not you and I, but just like, in a more like a theoretical context. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting though. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Huh. I'm just thinking right now of like all those the visuals that I have are the people who attend those circle parties on top of like the mountain in the Alps, and like I'm just seeing those people who like drop like $200-300 for $200 for a ticket, and then like they got a nice hotel, and it's just like it takes it away from it. But at the same time, I'm thinking in my head, it's like, maybe there's a camera guy there who's going to do some great art for this world, and this is his way of just getting the bread on the table. Yeah. And he's going to have a ripple effect on other people. Yeah. And that's sort of like the way I see that whole energy thing. And had he not had that gig, he would have never met this one person who brought him to this other person that brought his career into becoming, I don't know, he's a drone flyer now. He's shooting the music videos for Fortet, something like that. And he would have never ended up there had it not been for that. And I think we need to, I don't really want to be part of that system. I really believe we can build a better system. I don't know the way there. But I also don't want to create this idea of like, okay, as soon as you break this threshold and you're now in this scene or like this commercial scene, you can't come back. I think we should sort of drop the barriers and allow this, like, you can go from underground commercial back to underground commercial. And maybe look more or less at the value of the character themselves. And I think I would love to see the people who are like Calvin Harris. Like, if he's trying to go back to the underground, like, I would love to hear him talk for 30 minutes on why he's doing that. Because then there could be like the substance of like, he went in commercial, didn't like it, and had all these things and discoveries, and now he's coming back, and here's his plan for coming back.
I don't know that he's actually coming back. I just know he made a couple tracks that were like more
underground. Yeah,
like more in the like deep house kind of.
Well, that's also
vein, like not the EDM-y stuff.
That's also become very commercial as well.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'm also seeing a lot of big time DJs producing albums, or like their artwork are now vinyl artworks, and I'm just thinking, okay, what you guys trying to do here?
I mean, it's just cheap. To me, it's super cheap.
Yeah, but I also think maybe it's time for the underground to redefine its image. Another thought I just had now was I read an Instagram slideshow of critique to the CIA's rebranding. Have you seen the CIA's rebranding? Yeah, dude, it was wonderful meme. Like a modular synth festival in Berlin.
It's kind of funny actually.
I think when when something like that happens, and this guy hit the nail on the dot, and he criticized, like, okay, now this institute that we actually really know it's an institute we should not fuck with. Because they're taking down, they're oppressing people in foreign countries. I really, again, I'm a moron, don't know, but I don't think I don't think the CIA is really in our best interest. And they take our aesthetics, or the underground's aesthetics. Maybe it's time we have like a rebranding ourselves, to sort of detach from that and make a new cool. So what we did was we got to sort of go a little punk rock, and just right now, as the underground sort of becoming cool, because it has been the last few years. now that it's become cool, we should maybe take a pivot and start wearing like I don't know, like pink fluffy jackets and going back maybe to disco vibes or something.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, totally. And just generally, just maybe rethink what is underground, and maybe reestablish new rules.
Well, what does the underground mean to you, though? That's probably the question you have to start with. Right?
Yeah, that's actually, thank you, Jacob. The underground, to me, is a place where your identity does not really matter in neither positive or negative. You are free to be who you are and who you want to be, and there's no projection of the past onto you, and there's no expectation for you in the future. Now, that within that is a paradox, because I'm trying to expect a new future for the underground. But maybe bring a little more self-awareness into the underground and sort of go a little bit, because the underground also stemmed from giving people who didn't have a place. And I think that should be the main focus. And as we're moving into the mid 21st century, I think a lot of people, regardless of race and color, are now being put in a position where they just can't feel comfortable. And I've seen it also a little bit in the underground when it goes commercialized. There's been parties where it gets a little cringy.
Yes, like, very much. I'm gonna name places or names, but I mean, I think that's a pretty good idea of the underground. I think I would add that it's about art and presentation of ideas and emotion without the incentive of maybe gaining anything out of it. It's the idea of art for the sake of art, and full creative control, because that is the only way forward. And that is then, from that definition, whether, I don't know if that's right or not, but that's how I see it. From that definition, then, when money gets involved, because of that thing, you're saying, if you're given this certain amount of money, you're expected to do a certain thing. That loses then the integrity and the way forward, because you are then put into a box, and you have your past or your future is already projected onto you, because of this idea, of what people want or what people are paying for. And that's, there's really crappy and shitty, stupid ambient noise stuff that is not good, just because it's just people hitting stuff, but there's also really cool stuff, but you need both, and they need a space for that, and there's not a lot of money for that, and that's okay. But like with that, there's a lot of, with the very abstract musics and the more abstract painting, for example, or in any art form, when you break down those constructs and you're not focused on what am I going to gain out of this, that's where the ideas come from. That's where progress and something that's worth something, and that's where the real emotion comes out. That's where you're going to tell a story, and someone will listen to that story and be like, that is that person's story. That's not just a cog in the machine. That's not just a piece of, someone making music as like, this is not an algorithm. This is somebody, this is someone's thing. This is from them. This is a part of Jacob. This is a part of Philip. This is them, but I hear that, I've listened to your music, and you hear you in those things. Not everyone's going to like my music. Not everyone's going to like your music, but you can't say that you don't hear you in it. It's super, but you're not expecting anything from those. You say you finish it and you upload it, boom, done. And you can still make money within those things, and that's okay. But like, that is, for me, that is the number one thing. So it is about money, because that changes how people are manipulated, because unfortunately that's the ultimate manipulator. It could be money, it could be sex, it could be drugs, it could be anything. People will do things because they want something in return. But art with the expectation of nothing in return, because you're saying, this is my story, this is my thing I'm presenting, this is me. And that's underground shit.
I 100% agree.
Nice.
Very, very well done. I was just talking about the people. You talked about the whole underground.
They're not separate though, really.
Yeah.
Because if they're separate and a party turns into an Instagram party, you're there because you want something out of it. You want people to know that you're cool.
Yeah. Or you want to promote your OnlyFans page.
Yeah, I mean, I also, it's cool when people think I'm cool, but I also don't really care, because I think I'm cool sometimes. I think sometimes what I do is cool or worth it, and yeah, I mean, that's the struggle that an artist has, is to really love your own work and to have other people love it with like no strings attached. It's just that's what it is, and it's beautiful. It's hard to do it, because you have to really break down boundaries, and you can't make something that someone else already made.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's really hard. On Ableton, it's really easy to just, throw a bunch of loops in there. Yeah. And, I've done it. I did it when I started. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I'm like, well, I'm not really saying anything though. You're not really, no one knows anything about me after that.
Yeah.
I don't feel myself in that. And now I think I feel myself in my music a bit more,
Just recently, or?
Yeah, within the last couple of years. Really, since I came to Germany, things changed a lot. Cool. I mean, because I just had more club night experiences. Right before I came to Germany, I think I had more of those experiences. I was DJing longer sets, and I was DJing more, and I was playing with my uncle a lot in Fargo before I came, that last spring before I came to Germany, and I learned a lot in that time. And then I started to kind of shift my view on what is good, and what I want to actually present, and who, what is this stuff for, because like I said, I didn't want to beg people to go to stuff anymore, and I just said, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. Okay, now I have to look at myself again. Yeah. And I think in the last 2 years, there's moments where I don't write things for a while, but I know every time now that I go in, I have tools that I know how to use. I feel more comfortable with my setup, and I know that like I'm gonna get something. Not every time, but I know when I get something, it keeps getting a little bit better. Maybe it's not the best thing I've ever done. I don't know that exists either, but I feel more connected to things. I'm like, yeah, that's me, and that's from me. Like, you can hear me twisting shit in there. You can hear me, my songs are not perfect. My DJ sets aren't perfect, but you can hear me doing stuff. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I think that's worth it. And that the human element in this future music, we can't lose that, because we are, that's what we are. And I don't really want to lose that. I'm pretty, I like to think I'm pretty modern, and I'm not like anti-technology and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we are animals, and we need certain things on a more instinctive basis, and I don't want to lose those things in the pursuit of perfection or some silly idea like that. It's not interesting to me anymore, because that idea is void, in my opinion. It doesn't exist. I'm not interested in it, because shit is messy and people are messy, and I'm way more interested in the messy shit, because the messy people have a lot more shit to say, and that's a lot more interesting stuff.
Oh, it's always the fucked up people who are like the wisest.
Yeah.
They know the truth much more. They can handle the truth too.
Yeah. and you meet those people in the smoking rooms at a club at 6 a.m. and they're pretty willing to tell you probably way too much about themselves, but you
learn a lot,
but also about yourself, and a lot of self-reflection. But yeah, last 2 years I feel better. I'm not satisfied at all. I got more to say still, I think. I hope. I don't know. I haven't been able to send a little bit, but yeah.
Wow. I want to check the time. Oh,
yeah, we've been going for a minute, man.
Yeah, we're about to move up onto 3 hours.
Holy shit. All right,
It
nice.
flew by.
It did, actually.
That was a wonderful last note, I would say. We can just end it on that high note. I hope people were able to get a little bit of the way you think and what your art's about and what you're doing. And I'm pretty sure with your catalog of 100 tracks, there's going to be a few of them that are going to be played in clubs across the world.
I hope so. It's not for me at the end of the day. The tracks are for DJs to play and for people to hear, and there doesn't need a name on it. It just, it's for the moment, and then it's gone. Cool. And that's a club experience. It's there, it's beautiful, and it's gone forever, and that's cool.
Cool.
But thank you, Philip, again for the platform. You're doing really cool work.
Thank you.
You should be really proud of like I feel really at home in this spot, and the DJ setup is immaculate. So it's
from a DJ. So
yeah, I mean, I feel I have a lot of freedom and I have a lot of flexibility to be able to do whatever I want.
That's what we need here.
It's what we need everywhere. Yeah. And so thank you again for your...
Do you have any last words that you want to share with the people?
Last words, man. Try and say... When you DJ and when you make music, try and say something about yourself. Tell me something about yourself. I don't... tell me something. Always say something. Put your mark on it, and put yourself into the art, into the music, and it's gonna come out better. Because I just started doing that, I guess, and I feel better. So this is coming from a place of very little experience, but it is a different type of fulfillment that you feel, and it's very pure, and it's very really, really beautiful. And put yourself in there and take risks and don't. You express, be yourself and promote just you as a human, and that's okay. And because it's dirty and it's dark and it's sloppy and sometimes it's nice, but you are you, and that's the only thing you can be, and no one else can do that. So just do that and don't do anything else.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, man. It's been great.
Pleasure.